Hello everybody, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4 Old World Blues, my Enclave playthrough. And here we are again. It's been a little while. I'm sorry it took me so long, but I've been planning things in the background that you don't need to worry about. You'll find out about it very soon. But here we are, back in the world of Fallout. Last time we were moving up the Broken Coast, going to conquer them or defeat them for our good friends in the Dominion of Canada, the Queen over here. We're taking care of that. Shouldn't be too long. For the most part, this is just going to be a story building episode. Try to get more of the story down if we can. But it's going to be a long one too. Trying to get through a whole bunch of stuff. If you get my gist. Let's go ahead and unpause the game. Mariposa Core. After baiting and corralling a large group of renegade super mutants into a small canyon, we send in our own augmented super mutants. Despite fighting their own, our super mutants charged in, unflinching, and some even shouting pro-American slogans as they did. Their mounted armored chassis shrugged off rounds and took blows that would knock down a regular soldier in power armor. In but a few short minutes, the battle was over and only a few of our own were killed in combat. While not Frank Horgan levels of success, we were never going to replicate him directly. As a bonus, we tested the self-destruct mechanism on their armor on the deceased super mutants, so if one ever does go berserk, our officers can safely remove them from combat at minimal risk to human life. About time FEV bore success. Ag technology, Horgan power armor. Very nice. Now the question is, do I need to make that? I don't know, and I don't really care, to be honest. I think the game's slowing down a little bit. Rebuilding the Pacific Northwest. Huh. Reminds me of the V1. Cascadia or the Northwest Commonwealth? Cascadia or the Northwest Commonwealth? That is the question being asked by thousands of Americans from San Francisco to Seattle. The federal government has begun pushing the use of the Cascade Commonwealth on official documents as it sets of the Commonwealth government in Portland. Comprising much of America's Pacific Northwest, the Cascade Commonwealth is slated to be made up of Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. Some claim that parts of Northern California were also part of the Cascade Commonwealth, though the Commonwealth administration has claimed that there are more important matters to attend to face at the moment. The new administration cites cannibalism, roving super mutants, psychotic raiders, and the remains of the Washington Brotherhood as its primary threat. In conjunction with federal officials, the administration in Portland is working tirelessly to restore law and order, and large swaths of food are being shipped north. In return, the vast technological treasures of Seattle and the commerce of Portland are thoroughly being explored to benefit America as a whole. Never a dull moment. Wonderful. Now what's the next focus we're going to focus on? Nuclear powered attack planes, that's nice. Segregationist, no. No. Will Faster is pardoned. You can read that if you want. But pretty much it says he was doing what he had to, as far as I'm aware. New Monroe Doctrine. That's the one that was supposed to give me all the war support. That would make sense, yeah. Combat blimps. We're just doing a whole bunch of air stuff. New EPA complex. Awesome.
Enclave main com.
I don't know why this is taking so long. We should have capitulated them like 10 minutes ago. It controls 32% of victory points. It will capitulate when it has less than that. I assume when we take Hangman's Sound, that'll help. New EPA complex. With the mine secure, Director Cullis has made good on turning the former Poseidon EZ mine complex into the new EPA offices in the region, along with satellite offices at the other mines and some of the cleanup sites. Along with heightened security in case any of the mutant cannibals survive the purge, the mission of the EPA in the area will be ongoing efforts to restore the Grand Canyon to its former state, along with cleaning up the space debris from the Bomb 002 site west of it. It'll likely be decades before the Grand Canyon is in any state to accept tourists, but just like the rest of the nation, it was an easy job. Anyone would do it, if it was an easy job. Western Grand Canyon changes name to Grand Canyon. Eastern Grand Canyon changes name to Grand Canyon EPA Complex. Godspeed, Director. Very good. EPA is moving along pretty fast. Oh, that was a little bit of lag there.
Enclave here.
Guys? What are you doing?
Enclave here.
I said attack.
Enclave here. Excellent!
Clear that out, please. Thank you. We should have it in a second.
Enclave here.
Broken Coast does not have it. There we go. That took long enough. Okay, Broken Coast. No. Dominion of Canada. I believe that's all their stuff anyway, so it doesn't really matter to me. I don't need Broken Coast's navy, it sucks to begin with. New Monroe Doctrine. Fantastic. Do. We're gonna get early warning systems. We get event forever vigilant. With our centralized command and control, we need to be ready for whatever the wasteland throws at us in the future. Gotta get those early warning systems.
Enclave here.
You guys. New orders. You guys are gonna go against the Ruminators. Forever vigilant. Alright, let's go ahead and pick a... We're gonna get over the horizon stuff, I think. Pre-war, the United States had a series of powerful radar arrays positioned around the country that allowed for early warning of incoming Chinese bombers and missiles. It was these very same sites that detected the birds in the air that was relayed to NORAD. While we aren't expecting another dastardly communist attack, we don't know what is beyond our borders. Sea traders from the south tell of the Inca and their war fleets. Then there's the Chicago threat. Lastly, there's no telling what became of Europe. We've identified several former sites of reconstruction and teams are standing by ready to work when needed. Let's get to work. Warning systems across the continent. Yeah, that'll be really helpful. We're probably never going to use them, don't get me wrong, but better to have and not need than need and not have, as they say. We also might as well research all this stuff too, because we're already here. Over the horizon. And I guess National Recon Office. A lesser-known federal agency, the NRO was in charge of all satellites pre-war. With the return of the USSA, the NRO will resume operations, building a better picture of what the world is like post-war. That sounds helpful. We can lower autonomy. Oh, we can annex Mexico, I guess. Not that I really care to, truth be told. This is Pax Americana for a reason. Do I have... Can I declare war on these nations to give to Mexico? Or nah? I can, yes. National Reconnaissance Office. Awesome. Mexican liaison. Let's give them Pax Americana as well. The true feelings of Pax Americana. We've claimed their territory? We hold their cores? What cores do we hold? Oh. Yeah, this region right here, I think. You don't need it. I tried to return it to you earlier and you kind of didn't accept it. Anyway, so what does it matter? Alright, search for the purists. Oh lord. During our return to Seattle, one of our main priorities were to find those who fled Sierra Army Depot during our reformation. Whitehall Company scientists, but most importantly Anderson. We managed to trace their movements north to what we thought was MacArthur Air Force Base until a freak blizzard diverted them towards Seattle, where they came under the employ of the Washington Brotherhood. The dark foundries of Seattle welcomed all, and when our investigation team started looking into the records, many wished we didn't. The best and brightest were fed to those infernal machines, their brain power advancing knowledge at the cost of their souls. We don't know how many were fed in there or what became of them. We can't help but fear that a lot of them might still be alive in there, screaming in pain or shouting to get out. Guess that's a worse fate for a purist as any. Best to never know. Oh, Lord. Dr. Anderson, I presume. Well, it was Dr. Anderson. Granite looked to the bloody, twitching, withered husk was Anderson. Perhaps it was God above who whipped up the snowstorm that diverted them out of Montana and into Washington. Perhaps it was punishment from the very same God he always invoked that had their party captured by the Washington Brotherhood. It was somewhat ironic that the man was captured by the state and brotherhood that bore the name of the founding father, as if George himself was reaching through time to deliver the worst fate possible. Kept alive by twisted pre-war medical horrors disguised as miracles, his mind used as a processor for the Washington Brotherhood to continue whatever experiment he was hoping to complete. But while so many others were fed and used, becoming hollowed husks, Anderson had been spared from that fate. Perhaps it was his winning personality that drove the immortal to deliver special procedures for Anderson to keep him alive. Well, alive might not be the right word. In a clinical sense, he was alive, and perhaps somewhere in that gibbering, shaking, drained wreck, Anderson might still be alive. As Granite looked to the creature that was once his rival, there seemed to be some dim recognition in Anderson's eyes. But just that, dim recognition. Nothing more. Granite, for his part, shivered. Forget what we saw here. Cut him out. Alright. We're gonna get all the radars up. Let's restore power to NORAD. Safe Haven becomes a federal commonwealth. Let's see one more time if we can return anything to them. Send this, and I guess we'll send that. We'll activate those two. Should go after the Sorrows soon, I think. That'd be best. We'll handle it a little bit later. Alright, pre-war. Much of America's spy satellite network was overseen by the National Reconnaissance Office. Before the Great War caused all our great technological advancements to go awry, the entire United States satellite network was controlled by this single intelligence agency. Working alongside the U.S. Air Force and the USSA, the NRO built and maintained every intel satellite in space, from Freedom View to the Eagle Eye platform. Now, with Bloomfield under our control, we can begin work not to restore these old systems, but to build newer and better systems in the future. While, for now, we can get Freedom View online, the future is looking bright. Contact the USSA. Replace satellite network with Freedom View network. Reconnaissance and planning speed goes up a whole bunch. Awesome. Well, that's amazing. Ooh, right. Our new territories. I think I'm going to invade these two nations, get them out of the way for Mexico. But for now, we keep on moving. I think I can go Enclave Hydra. The fuck? Alright, hold on. The true extent of the Enclave was always hidden from the basic Enclave member. Most knew of the larger outposts like Chicago, Texas, White Springs, and Raven Rock. However, there were always dozens of satellite bases and outposts that were dotted around the country, as well as base camps established by expeditions to analyze what was on the continent after the bombs fell. Those numbers were always classified for whatever reason, but one always did question just how monolithic was the Enclave. Since taking back MacArthur, Enclave intelligence has stumbled across several documents detailing the extent of the Enclave after the war and just how silly it is. Aside from Chicago and Raven Rock, apparently there are just Enclave everywhere. Really. There are reports of Enclave units off in Florida, Guantanamo, Central Canada, Toronto, 2 expeditions in Texas that are not the Texclave, another remnant of Dayglow, West Virginia seems to be still kicking, an IRS enclave, an enclave in Colorado, 1 in Ruby Valley, 1 in Nebraska, 1 down in Mexico, possibly 1 somewhere in the south. Apparently there was one in Reno, but that might have been us, 1 in Oregon, but that was likely Granite. Speaking of Granite, he stared at the papers wide-eyed and beside himself. You mean to tell me all these enclaves exist? How many enclaves are there? Well, we also found this other map that showed positions all over the world. Shut up! I've never seen that one before. That's awesome. I like it. I've never seen that. That's awesome. Which also means there's so much more like storytelling and stuff. Perhaps for like Cuba down here, out here, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Florida for sure. Future content, all of this. Chicago, up here, where we know there's supposedly another enclave group. I think it means it's featured in 3. The West Virginia one in Fallout 76. There's just a whole bunch. I think what was it? Safe Haven? Rebuilding the Rockies? No. Doing it the Texas way? No. Buckaroo Buyout. The Badland Buckaroos might look like a raider group, but they've taken to ranching the big corners of northern Nevada. We don't need to fight them. They just pay them off and provide protection, and they'll join right up. What nation do they belong to? Because I'm fairly certain these guys don't exist. But, okay, I guess. I'm just gonna click on yes, restore them. Okay, Safe Haven looks like it's the last person I can extend a helping hand to like, annex them into the fold. Everyone else, it seems I have to go to war with. Which isn't necessarily too hard. Alright, let's prepare another rocket. Those 2 will be done soon enough. What to do. Should be fine. Doesn't really matter too much. Alright, Victorian Union with Haida Confederation. Mr. President, the Queen has happily informed us that Haida Confederation has accepted the royal delegation of Union, extending a hand in union and friendship. The Queen is... Hold on, where is this? Oh, right up here. Gotcha. Extending a hand in union and friendship, the Queen is expected to visit Haida Confederation capital and grant the title of Provincial Governor to Henry Warner as a sign of good faith and eventual prosperity. Canadian forces are beginning to distribute goods and conduct security patrols, not requiring U.S. forces for the time being. Amera Esquia ad Mere. So they annex them. Lands of Republic. In the refinery. Was it this? Did we give up this just now? How much more stuff do we have? Like, they hold our core provinces. Okay, what is your core what is left? Is it this? Possibly. Maybe this region here? I know the rest of this border seems fine. I think this region right here maybe, but otherwise I don't see anywhere else. It's fine. I think we are going after the Sorrows now. Just get rid of them.
Enclave here.
It can't be done. What? Well, why not? That has been the byword for the debate raging among diplomats since they've taken to restoring Canada is the subject of the border. It appears that the powers that have that be have made it nigh impossible to set the border a straight line, and unlike Mexico, that has caused a diplomatic row. Suffice to say, those who are shedding tears over a nice clean straight line will have to live with the fact that the situation at hand does not allow for it anymore, nor will we be wasting time to try and come to that conclusion. Our diplomats, however, have come to a conclusion that benefits our interests in the north. Well, just let tell me already. The northern border. With the great annexation of Canada in the past, the pre-war government went to a great effort to erase the border or mention of the border from records. Even our own records are incomplete, as our predecessors firmly believed Canada was sovereign American territory. We have some mention of a 49th parallel, but what that means is lost to us. To settle this, the State Department has sent their best to New Victoria to hash things out. The State Department sent a former Air Force officer turned diplomat named Stevens. He and his team worked hard to determine the old world border. However, their bravado and lack of tact made working with their Canadian counterparts rather difficult. The issue comes from the fact that he's a staunch anti-New World faction member and is determined to see the world return to exactly how it was pre-war. He has really high charisma, though. This issue is going to take a while to fix as the American and Canadian diplomats go back and forth over the border.
That's a no one.
Well, we'll see how Stevens plays his hand.
This is
okay, I guess.
Maincom.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Alright, let's start pushing across.
Enclave here. Yeah, you can say that again. Yeah.
The Zorro should be dead within a few minutes. I don't think there'll be oh much. Ah, Mexican liaison. Wonderful. Well, now that that's taken care of,
Enclave here.
let's push even deeper into the Zorros, sort them out.
Enclave here.
And there we go. Annex all of that. And we can core it real quick. Won't take too long. Another focus. Fortress America. No. What was I looking for? There's a focus I was going to do. Oh, right. Power to NORAD, I think, was the last thing that I was focusing on. Yep. For they will be found scared and alone. Okay, hold on. I'm going to read that in a second. I'm trying to find where NORAD is. Over here to the left? No. Civilian Air Force? No. Oh, DEFCON. Again. We can't... What's taking so long with NORAD? Seriously. Let's just get this researched, I guess. I don't know. For they will be found scared and alone. During a sweep of feral ghouls in the Seattle Metro, security teams stumbled across the tattered remains of an Enclave unit that had been hiding out down there. They were protecting a series of refugees that had escaped from the Washington Brotherhood, but that wasn't all to them. Leading them was Commander Rebecca Whitehall, who apparently found God and the error of our ways as a purist. In fact, many of the refugees down here seem to think of her and her men as their saviors. While we, of course, send the refugees out to be cared for, that leaves the question of Whitehall. What the hell what happened to fucking, what's his name? Anderson, I think they've suffered enough living under the fear of that.
Enclave here.
I mean, don't get me wrong. They're not going to be working under their leader, their old leader. But still.
Enclave here.
Let's get me my troops and send them off to their respective fronts they need to.
This is Enclave Maincom.
Whole lot of troops and not a lot of places to put them. I could probably declare war on all three and just deal with it like that, but that sounds boring. Why would I do that? I'll just clear up who I need to and move on from there. So, a lot of things happening. Yeah, these remind me of B1s for some reason. I can't place. We're just gonna keep researching stuff as we go. Okay. State owner, declare war, call allies, go ahead. Declare war, call allies, go ahead. Okay. Mexico, you got this. Guatemala, you too. Seattle, Vancouver. Oh, okay. Got the rocket done. Grand Queen Victoria VI signed the Seattle-Vancouver Border Treaty today, laying to rest a growing diplomatic row over the border between the United States and the Canadian Dominion. Granite spoke at great length about hearing the calls and cries of the American people to return the border of the pre-war straight line, and that non-stop work was given to ensure that the neat straight line that kept Americans awake at night was finally laid to rest. No longer would Americans fret knowing that the border was an issue and that so long as Granite was president, the border issue would remain solved. Queen Victoria VI, when asked for comment, accepted the border situation, but wondered why so many Americans seemed to take an issue with it. There! Straight line! Stop complaining! To parse out the Canadian border. Okay, so we got a special division for that. Or, not division, what's it called? Decision. My bad. We could restore more things, interact with followers, no. Recruitment drive, no. War movie, I guess. No. This is nice and all, but I don't really care for the moment. No. I'm getting those too. I do know what those are, and I really want them. Yeah, I'm not bringing back Vault-Tec. It's not happening. Pirate threat taken care of. We're gonna launch the rocket. Could be a whole bunch of stuff. But, who knows? Just gonna click that to get that over with. No, taking out the trash, no. It is what it is. Just keep moving. Drawing the border. Okay. Looking through old world maps, lining them with new world caravan routes, and double checking with air flyover, we managed to redraw the border between America and Canada. Already, members of Her Majesty's government are marking the territory, and agents from the US government are setting up posts to ensure safe crossings for caravans or prospectors. There continue to be some discontent with the results of the border, however. Good. Straight lines. And here comes the game lag, as so much territory gets transferred over to the Canada. Yeah, this is heavy lag. My game might crash from this. Luckily for you guys, though, well, because of the recording software isn't an in-game thing anymore, it should be fine. Something's up there. Oh, hey, look. Space stuff. President Granite, our ship was destroyed once it reached a stable orbit. Everything seemed fine until Mission Control got a flurry of panicked messages that the crew saw movement among the debris and stars. Either they were not heeding our warning, or our replies were jammed as the messages just kept coming. They reported seeing faces, dark masses moving as stars, and worst of all, something was trying to get in. Approximately 7 minutes into this ordeal, we noticed a spike in the ship's main reactor before we lost the ship on radar and sensors. We'd only assumed that the crew destroyed their ship out of fear that whatever was getting in was succeeding. We've scrubbed the events from records and have written a cover story that the ship impacted with unknown space debris while obtaining orbit. Future missions are still being planned because at the very least we need to know what's up there. We live on a placid island of ignorance. Awesome. Well, not quite straight as much as I would have liked. I feel like we have more territory than we should as the U.S. I feel like Dominion of Canada is a little too far north. Meh, it's good enough. Not nearly as much of a straight line, but it is what it is. Cool, we got virtual reality training done. I'm still wondering what's taking NORAD so long to get energy back. Like, am I supposed to build something? Yeah, oversight is nice. Bald eagles, okay, give me a second. The good earth, that's nice. Where's DEFCON again? I keep losing this. Ah, here it is. NORAD is restored. Seriously, what is taking so long with that? I don't understand. Whatever, we'll just get more fuel stuff. Bald eagles. Since retaking the nursery, our biologists and genetic engineers have been hard at work trying to recreate extinct pre-war species. Chief among them is our national symbol, the bald eagle. We've been hampered by the fact the nursery wasn't exactly stocked with birds, but rather domesticated beasts of burden. It seems that our national bird wasn't very high on Diana's list. While we're willing to overlook that, attempts to re-engineer it from what we had were slow at best. Then we found Vault 96, what was supposed to be an ark of genetic material for repopulation, but of course Vault-Tec found a way to mess it up. The vault is largely decayed and abandoned, but aside some looting and a mess of the X001 chamber, its genetics bay remains largely untouched. Scouring it, our excavation teams have found a trove of untouched genetic material for the bald eagle, and we've had them sent west to the nursery under heavy escort. Like America, our national bird shall rise again. Yes! The good earth. The nursery is a pre-war facility buried in a remote valley led by a pre-war AI who called herself Diana. Although the EPA thinks we could use the facility to terraform the wasteland into a paradise, Diana refuses to aid us and claims we'll squander her gifts. If we can get her cooperation, we could rebuild the American biospheres and restore bald eagles, buffaloes, and woolly mammoths to the American wilderness. Persuade Diana to aid us to heal the wasteland. You want to what? That was what Callahan screamed as Granite gave his proposal to the intelligence chief. Matt, you're the only one in the Enclave with that advanced VR pod. Can you do it? Asked Granite. Callahan shook his head. I mean, yeah, I can do it, but why? What in the hell would you want to do with any of this? Granite had little of his subordinates in subordination. Callahan, I'm the president. Can you do it or not? Of course I can do it. It's simple. In fact, if she really is hooked up to a Zax, those VR pods have built-in comparability with Zax's on the ground, as Zax could provide more dynamic VR data for combat simulations. I just need to have an answer if something goes wrong, and I'm standing before Congress, again, explaining why I did this. No, you ordered me won't cover it. Granite just shrugged his shoulder. Well, she is one of the few who know how to produce Gex in the wasteland. Figured a visit from none other than the President of the United States could convince her. You saw her hologram, didn't you? Deadpanned Callahan. I saw her hologram, yes. Grant smiled, adjusting his collar. Now are you going to do this, or am I going to have to fire you? Callahan stood with his mouth agape. It'll take a few days to set it up. Gives the event a date by any other name. Am I going to have to send my troops down? The basement. Okay. Another secret of the Enclave is there was a plan to restore the United States without releasing a modified virus into the air. One that involved the most advanced robots of the day, the Calculator. However, these plans failed, and now we know why. Evidence from the wreckage and battle near the complex showed the Brotherhood of Steel launched an all-out assault on the complex, bent on destroying the Calculator once and for all. Suffice to say, they accomplished just that. Most of the Calculator's systems are damaged beyond repair, and the code of work for them wiped from existence. It could take decades to restore everything, and that's if everything works out in our favor. Thankfully, the base nuclear power plant is still functioning, and we've managed to get it back online. However, the robots that were once stored here are gone, and likely never to be repurposed. Damn it all to hell! Ah, well, you win some, you lose some. Looks like Mexico's got it handled. I was worried I was going to have to deploy troops down. That would have been so problematic. Okay, that was a little lag on the game there. That's nice. Cruise missiles, cool. A date by any other name. That's nice. Okay. Let's get back up to DEFCON. We still can't do it. NORAD restore. How do we I'm starting to get a little angry, if you can't tell. Restoring NORAD. Restore the operations center. Oh. Well, that would explain it. Safe Haven joins the United States. Awesome, cool. A date by any other name. Every stop has been taken. Stop? Is it supposed to be step? I'm gonna assume it's step. Every step has been taken. 5 of Enclave Intelligence's best programmers were on standby to start overloading Diana's processors if she tried anything. 2 viruses had been created and on standby that at least would buy them time. What was more, if anything funny happened, Callahan had an auto-axe read to cut through the link between the VR pod holding Granite and the rest of the facility. The Air Force was on standby to hit Diana's little vault with earthquake bombs, and the Secret Service was on standby with their best medical doctors ready to come to the president's aid. In short, every stop had been pulled to ensure that if anything went wrong, they'd get Granite out before it was too late. This was, of course, despite the assurances of Diana that they had nothing to fear and that she was actually intrigued upon meeting Granite. She mumbled something about Lanius, but Callahan and the Secret Service were not taking any risks. As Callahan stood before the screen depicting Granite having his meeting with Diana, he was seriously considering spiking his Nuka-Cola with whiskey, or just straight downing a whole flask of it. There was Granite, easily charming Diana, who seemed to be already all too ready to respond to his advances. They made small talk, and in a small cafe in what looked like a pre-war town, or something. It seemed that the simulation was merging between the two, but Callahan couldn't make sense of it. Diana traced her finger over a glass of Nuka-Cola Dark as Granite turned on the ink spots on the jukebox, both leaning into each other. Get Collis on the line. What the fuck is going on? What is he romancing a robot? I'm a little confused. Granite, what are you cooking? Please, what are you doing? Diana agrees to help. Not every day that Collis got a visit from the president. Not every day he got a visit from the president with an assaultron emitting a holographic representation of Diana. Collis, I'm proud to let you know that Diana here has agreed to help the EPA with restoring the wasteland with Gex. That did get Collis to perk up. Really? Thank you, miss. What led you to reconsider? Asked Collis. Diana just smiled warmly. Dougie here was very convincing. How can I tell him no? Dougie? Asked Collis. Granite cleared his throat. Yes, well, she has some of her assistants in Colorado beginning production. Collis, I trust you to handle the details. Now, if you'll excuse us. Collis watched them walk away, making small talk and laughing amongst each other. Collis was seriously considering putting whiskey in his coffee. Yeah, you... Yeah, you and Callahan both, what? I'm a little confused and a little, I don't know how to feel about this one. I'm gonna be honest with you, guys. I'm a little put off. I'm a little, this is a little much for me. Yeah. Oh, I guess I could technically research cybernetics. Not that I'm going to do that because that's a stupid decision. But still. What? Alright, I may actually have to send troops down because I don't know why Mexico is struggling this much. Nothing could stop the U.S. Air Force, I guess. Let's get the Air Mobility Command while I'm at it. Alright, the Enclave was always the masters of the sky. From our very return to the shores of America, we operated vertibirds that allowed us to strike at targets with impunity and deploy strike teams at a moment's notice. Now, however, the times have changed. With our expanding military, the Air Force is rapidly outgrowing its vertibird fleet, and many wasteland nations are starting to grasp the finer points of flight, even if it is just a glider launching off a Brahmin carrot. Our Air Force commanders have gotten out ahead of this and begun a recruiting campaign, promising wages, technical skill training, and the chance to soar above the clouds in aircraft rather than slog it out out on the ground. They further expanded the scope of their operations, taking on both the decisive and pragmatic approach to aviation. America needs you. Enlist in the U.S. Air Force. Who exactly were we bombing with vertibirds? Add technology, pragmatic aviation. Add technology, mechanical know-how. Nice. Very nice. I guess improved manufacturing also works too. Can I manufacture Gex now? No, no, no. That's a flamer, so no. Vindicator, air energy, air defense system, no. Pershing, sea cruise missile payloads, no. MIM Nike Hercules surface to air missile barrage balloons? Since when did I unlock this? You know what? I'm just gonna pretend like I didn't read that. But I guess a better question right now is, what are we gonna do with all these howitzers? Because I think they deleted themselves, like, from my, yeah, they deleted themselves from here. Just replace them with the heavy artillery, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know what to do with that. Civilian power cores. Not a whole lot of places to put these. Which is good, don't get me wrong, but... Get this area out here. Let's get this area up here. And the more places we have cored, the better. I swear I did core some of these areas earlier, but I guess not. That's what it is. Oh yes, and the Sorrows. I should not forget the Sorrows. Okay, I think that's everything. How long has this been going on? Only 42 minutes. Surprising. Alright. I think I'm gonna pause the game.
Enclave here. Enclave here.
Which commander are you? Here, okay. I'm just going to declare war on all of these at this point and just deal with it as I go. Ruminators. I don't know.
Enclave here. I see.
I should get that all handled.
Enclave here. Enclave here.
Oh yes, I
This is
forgot the other
Enclave
guys
main
on the
comm.
other side of the river.
This is Enclave main comm.
Activate you. I guess I can also probably activate you too in a second.
Enclave here. Enclave here.
Tack upwards.
This is Enclave main comm. This is Enclave main comm. This is Enclave main comm. Enclave here.
Mass invasion. The biggest war I've had in...
This is Enclave main comm.
How many episodes? I don't know, actually.
Enclave here.
you have your orders, okay? Just shut up and do what I tell you to. Like, come on now. Is there crossings down here? I don't think there are crossings down here.
Enclave here.
But I can give you orders to attack this way.
Enclave here.
Okay. No, don't even need to declare war on those guys. I just did it for free. Oh, not necessarily for free, but close enough. Oh yes, I almost forgot about Painted Rock for a second.
This is Enclave main comm. Enclave here.
Unclear now that I'm getting Who's left? No one, I don't think. Safe Haven's gonna join me soon. Who can I annex? Mexico? Mexico. Thought so. No one can stop the United States military. Second to none.
Enclave here.
The only fiend.
This is Enclave main comm.
Okay. I'm killing nations faster than they can, like, capitulate. Like, legit, it's... The game is lagging a little bit because I capitulate them so fast that I can't even recognize they're dead yet. That's funny, actually. That's kind of hilarious.
This is Enclave main comm.
Let's move you guys to here and give you guys your orders to move all the way down there.
This is Enclave main comm.
You guys to kill these off. Technically war crimes, but it doesn't really matter all that much.
This is Enclave main comm. This is Enclave main comm. That's a no one. This is Enclave main comm.
I was expecting the Ruminaires to capitulate soon. I'd be surprised if they kept going any longer than this. Still, I have the Ruminators. Controls 39 when it has 15 or less.
This is Enclave main comm. This is Enclave main comm. Enclave here.
Let's just get this northern part
This is
handled.
Enclave main comm.
Once we do that, we should have it all handled.
Enclave here. Enclave here.
It's really not that hard, guys. Come on. You can do better than that. War crimes. Oh, here it is. Yeah. I didn't know this was an event, but kind of ironic, given what I mentioned earlier. Goody. Let's just move to restart the depot, I guess. During our just struggle to liberate America, American forces engaged in what some might call war crimes against the civilian population. Pictures of the incident have been released in newspapers across the United States and have been greeted with contempt by the New World Party. Whew! I can't believe I called it though. That's the funny part. I called that. I was like, Are we committing war crimes right now? Yes, yes we were. Ooh, Gek production. Nice. Sponsor patriotic movie. Sure. What are the chances though? That's hilarious. That's completely and utterly hilarious. Like the chances of that. I mentioned war crimes and then it's like, oh, our people are committing war crimes. That's funny. That's good. Alright then. Let's keep moving forward. What's a few minor war crimes every now and then, I guess.
This is Enclave main com.
Minor war crimes, he says.
Enclave here.
Restoring Herlong. Awesome. We could start restoring some stuff that we probably should have done technically like
This is Enclave main
a while ago, but I kind of forgot it.
This is Enclave main com.
For a little bit.
Enclave here.
In that regards, oopsie daisy.
This is Enclave main com. This is Enclave main com. Yeah. This is Enclave main
Why does
com.
that lady have an assault rifle?
Enclave here.
You know what? I like
Enclave
it.
here.
They're probably on
Enclave here.
desperate measures at this point.
Enclave here.
Just move to take this, please. It's
Enclave here.
literally, I think, their only VP left. Yeah, it's their only VP left. Come on, guys. This really is not that hard.
Enclave here. Enclave here.
Anyway, life in the depot. Fort Sierra was built as a massive storage depot for military equipment before being shuttered due to manpower constraints and the Great War. The problem is it's starting to become a bit difficult to get operations going and expand the base, when there are families living alongside the soldiers as well. Not everyone was keen on moving into Neutrino, but be it wanting to stay with family, not wanting to live in the city, or just being secure behind the walls of the old army base. However, this place is not meant for families, and we can't conduct operations if we have children running through the halls or spouses beating down on briefings because the toilet seat was left clogged. Oh, wow, okay. The answers, of course, lies right outside the base with the ruins of Herlong, the town that was built to support the base just for this reason. Sure, it's seen better days, but engineers are ready and we set up a special committee to decide who gets what and where within the town. Alright, let's get this done. Fort Sierra added town of Herlong, which grants the town of Herlong was left barren after the war, but we can rebuild it. Awesome, we're working on the next thing already, which is good. Flying fortresses, let's get that through. Engineering, got all that stuff. Air, done. Completed that stuff a while ago. More robot stuff, I guess.
This is Enclave main com.
I still can't get over that. I was like, I think we're committing war crimes, but who cares?
Enclave here.
The media literally 3 seconds afterwards. Yeah, so apparently the US government's committing war crimes.
Enclave here.
Like the chances of that are rather low. Oh right, I completely forgot about my armies in the north. I can just go send them around the place. Go ahead and get them dealt with. Alright, and that's Ruminator finally taken care of. Alright, the army that was dealing with the Ruminators, you guys.
This is Enclave main com.
Seasoned veterans. Yeah, you guys go ahead and take this northern part. I want the I want these guys taken care of yesterday.
This is Enclave main com.
The Dark Foundry. Oh, so I have to read that after this. Luminous ones are taken care of. That's nice. Alright, hold on. The Dark Foundry. We heard that the Washington Brotherhood worships a Dark Foundry, but as we dig them out of the ruins of Seattle, it appears the truth is more prosaic. A Zax supercomputer survived the war and has been advising the Washington Brotherhood in exchange for resources. Hard to imagine anyone would be dumb enough to follow a supercomputer, but it's picked up a great deal of knowledge and advice about the wasteland. Copy its data banks while it tries to solve pi. Oh my. Before we stand at Heaven's Gate, Saint Michael and his flock within the lands of Heaven's Gate attempted to spread the word of God to what they deemed unholy lands filled with sinners and pagans. Unfortunately, Saint Michael considered a lot of people unholy sinners and pagans. Despite claiming to heed the word of God, he failed to realize that God blessed the Enclave and God blessed America. Even an alliance with Caesar failed to stop his undoing, and his Holy Crusade ended with U.S. forces crashing through his city with divine vengeance. While many of his followers fell in the fighting, we captured St. Michael. We captured St. Michael. Many of his more fervent followers have taken to the mountains, believing they can eke out a resistance to us. It gets rather cold in the winter. Set a trial, we will bring them the light of civilization. The trial of St. Michael. The federal courthouse in Neutrino was surrounded by dozens of heavily armed police and even power-armored U.S. Marshals as St. Michael, the would-be leader of Heaven's Gate from Idaho, was sentenced today for 5 life sentences plus 1,270 years for terrorism, conspiracy to commit mass genocide, inciting a rebellion against the government of the United States, and running a cult. St. Michael was noted as being defiant and flippant about U.S. law, claiming that he only answers to God's law, while his defense attorneys wished to have the religious icon's case dismissed on the grounds that he was unfit to stand trial. The prosecution pointed out anyone intelligent enough to pull off what he did in Idaho is more than competent enough to stand trial. In a humorous turn of events, Attorney General Felix Grayson was quoted as saying, "If God wanted you to do what you did, he wouldn't have sent me." After the trial, the Attorney General spoke to reporters and made clear that no one on this earth is above the law, not even self-proclaimed saints. So we gain 1% legitimacy and 100 political power. Twice in 400 years. Our surveyors are still shifting through the wreckage of what could be millions of robots piled up outside the Alamo chapter's former fortress. What happened here is a tragedy on an immeasurable scale, and many want to see a memorial erected to the brave defenders of the Brotherhood who gave their lives to defend against the Mexican Titan. Remember the Alamo. Again, we can annex Texas. I'm kind of tempted to, but at the same time, I'm not going to. Main Operations Center. Birds in the air. Ah, here it is. NORAD stuff. Hold on. Before I forget. There we go. That should be the last one. Very happy. Let me just get rid of one group of these for the moment. Once I can get this stuff done, I can move a little farther up into one of the others. What other nations do I really need to take care of at this point?
Enclave here.
Just like push, I guess.
This is Enclave main com.
Problem with capitulating an entire nation is suddenly you're having a difficult time, like, you know, destroying them. Alright. Main Operations Center. It was here that we were alerted of birds in the air on that fateful October morning in 2077. It was this very command room at 0917 Eastern Time that confirmed the first nuclear strikes on American soil, destroying much of the West Coast. It was here where we knew the old world had ended, even as what would become the Enclave rejoiced on the oil rig and elsewhere. Here, dozens of airmen and their officers watched helplessly as lights representing American cities flickered and died, as billions of lives were snuffed out in an instant. A few of them are still in their seats, holes in their heads, pistols still in their bony grasp. Others lay dead near the door in a desperate attempt to get out and see loved ones once more, but died from radiation from the bombs that struck Colorado Springs. We've been so focused on reclaiming the United States, so busy returning America to glory, we didn't stop and look at the remains we have been sifting through. It's a bit sobering. There's a story here, a somber one, of the men and women who watched the world end and could do nothing to stop it. Helpless as the hubris of the old world ended everything, the ravages of time have made identifying who is who difficult, but we will identify them through the duty logs and what we can piece together from their uniforms. We will give them a proper burial and a monument detailing their names. They watched the world end. My God. That was something. All right, you deploy down south. Your orders are to clear these guys up. That was I wasn't expecting that. Hold on. War crimes. Again. War crimes. Come on, guys. I can only delay the public from watching this for so long. Please. Get your shit together and stop committing war crimes. I know it's fun. I assume. I have no idea if it would be fun or not. I just kind of keep taking a guess. But like, come on, guys, get it together. Alright, reclaiming Oklahoma. In the opening hours of the Great War, Oklahoma City was spared destruction and only a single bomb detonated on the city. However, the chaos after the war led to its downfall, and with the remnants of the Oklahoma National Guard forming up elsewhere, the city fell from grace. Those in the city soon found themselves the target of the Chickasaw-Muskogee coalition as the years drove on, with the native coalition deciding a city of raiders was not in their best interests. That didn't mean that the city benefited from the coalition's gambling empire, and instead, native soldiers watched over and kept peace. Oklahoma City soon began serving as a center for caravan trade, its economy driven by goods moving overland through the region and down the Canadian River. So long as they paid those in big spend, what difference did it make what they did in the meantime? If anything, the increase in trade meant that they could funnel weapons to big spend and elsewhere and avoid the ear of casino families. Despite its resilience, the city's potential remained untapped, overshadowed by the coalition's other interests. This, of course, identified Oklahoma City as a key location for our efforts to re-establish order in the Midwest. Recognizing the city's strategic position along major trade routes and its historical significance, as well as semi-independence from the casinos, since our return we've replaced the native casino enforcers swiftly, restoring long-lost essential infrastructure, revitalized the city's trade routes, and began a campaign to tie the local economy to out west. The Canadian River trade has been expanded and new technologies were introduced to enhance agricultural production and resource management in the surrounding areas. A modern boom town, the capital of Oklahoma is returned to Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City adds to infrastructure. Very nice. Remnants of a forgotten cause. Texas, of course, brings its own case of super mutants. Originally set forth to revive the Master's goal, the death of Attis at the hands of a nascent Texas Brotherhood fractured the super mutants under three of Attis' former lieutenants. In Austin, Keats tried to revision the ideas of the Master as a true unity, while Shale clung to the remnants of the past. Juggernaut's just a rabid dog. While of course many will have to be put down, some from Texas speak that many are good people that just want to live peacefully. The ideals of Austin are the ideals of America. The Great Plains Federation. Holy, how many of these do I have? 4?
Enclave here.
Let me just sort out the divisions for a second.
Yeah.
Once I can
Enclave here.
get this all nice and tied up.
Yeah.
I can,
Enclave here.
Okay, that's cleaned up a little bit. Moving troops down here to take care of Tierra los Tietzos. Safe haven will have to be returned to Canada, and this northern region is pretty much tied up by itself. But it'll be done soon enough.
Yeah, you can say that again. Enclave here.
I'm delaying like reading the events at the moment because it's just a lot of events, and I don't necessarily have too much time to just read all of this. If I continue doing that, the wars would never end.
This is Enclave Maincom.
At all,
Enclave
ever.
Here.
So just
Enclave here.
Give me a moment to just try to sort out my notifications a little bit.
Enclave here.
Okay, cool. I think that's handled. Alright, we can move back to this. So much text. Holy moly. Alright, the Great Plains Federation. While parts of Oklahoma are given over to raiders, horror beyond comprehension, and the remnants of the Oklahoma National Guard, much of Oklahoma has been under the watchful eye of the Great Plains Federation, an alliance of the great Native American tribes that have guarded Oklahoma jealously over the centuries and used their casinos and knowledge of the land to maintain their control, resisting everything from the Brotherhood to super mutants and everything in between. Now they are resisting us, and they aren't exactly happy to see the Stars and Stripes back. Of course, that isn't going to make us go away. Seems they anticipated our arrival and old habits die hard, and they spent considerable money they've gained on preparing a defense force. Imagine their surprise when members of the State Department arrived to negotiate rather than the army to fight. Of course, they weren't exactly eager to listen to us, and their history is littered with broken promises and dead bodies at the hands of the U.S. government. After a few days, however, we managed to negotiate an agreement that the Federation seems pleased with. The Great Plains Federation will rejoin the United States, but will have a larger role in the state of Oklahoma and the Texas Commonwealth as a whole. Further, they will be allowed to operate nearly independently as they have for the past 200 years. Be it a slow burn to return them to our fold, or a new chapter in the history of our nation, we'd rather not have more bloodshed and bad blood, especially with Chicago looming not too far away. Alright. Well, nice to see it ended peacefully. You're telling me if I had just done this event, I wouldn't have even been fighting them. Alright, now, I'm... what the actual... Alrighty then. Sorry about that for a second. But you know, I had to pause the recording so I could rage a little bit. It looked like a seamless pause for you guys, I'm hoping. Maybe a few seconds of silence, but yeah, I'm a little unhappy about that. What the... Why? Why? Like, what the heck? What are the chances? Ah, well. What can you do? Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Anyway, back to getting through these event stuff. Texas guns. What was the RRG's problem has now become our problem. Texas Arms Association was one of the largest third-party weapons manufacturers in the pre-war era. They managed to survive the Great War simply by having more guns than anyone else. Of course, having all those guns meant they sold those guns to everyone else, and post-war aligned with the RRG as their largest buyer of weapons. While many within the TAA still wish to sell weapons, we have zero intention of allowing them the same kind of freedom that the RRG was forced to accept, simply because we have more guns than them. Of course, that leaves the residents of the East State, which is its own city by this point. They can have the factory, that's it. Nothing more. Alright, the Wast's greatest entertainer. KXLL station was an attempt by the Federal Communications Commission to ignite hatred against communism and buy more American products by subliminal means. Sadly, it was never deployed on mass scale thanks to the Great War cutting plans short. Enter Mr. Entertainment, an enigmatic fellow who found the old equipment and has been slowly spreading his influence across the wasteland. Now, when we confronted him about it, he claimed he was only doing it for the betterment of the people, pointing to the lower levels of violence in areas where his TVs are set up. He has graciously given over his studio, equipment, team, and his own charms to assist us in recreating America. We could use it to reprogram Raiders in the Legion. Yep, that sounds about right to me. Recognizing Austin. Just the last one, right? Oh, it is. Wonderful. Alright, let's keep moving on. In Austin, it almost looks like the bombs never fell. A vital member of the Texan Economic Union, the wealth gained has restored much of the city. Its central location in the state and its situation on the West Brazos means that money and trade flowed through the city, and it was able to afford a well-supplied guard. Of course, that guard force is also the only way you can tell the bombs fell. The place is the center of power for the super mutant Keats and the unity of Austin. We don't know who was more surprised when we arrived. With our experience in the West Coast, it was quite a shock to see a city where humans and mutants lived peacefully together. Well, mostly peacefully anyway. To those of Austin, they were equally as shocked at the fact that they were looking upon an enclave that accepted mutants, including super mutants. Apparently, they've heard rumors about the United States but never truly believed it. Keats was a little hesitant to hand over the reins of the city to us, though after negotiating, he finally relented. If nothing more than for the fact that since Austin is home to many super mutants in Texas, residing in the capital means that Texas lawmakers will think less about adopting California's stringent anti-mutant laws and more about keeping Texas free and open. Well, it's Austin. I'm surprised the city has survived so much. Maybe I'll play as a country down here at one point. Are my troops finally down here? No, they are not. Give them like 5 more seconds, I think. The last redoubt is finally gone. Oh, God. Where eagles fly! Oh, God bless America. My home sweet home. After several successful weeks of work, we've not only recreated the bald eagle, we've made it even better. We made it the largest bird of prey of the pre-war era, gave it the ability to live anywhere across the United States, and set its prey to be species such as cazadores and stingwings. We've also set them to not see humans as prey since they can easily pick up a small child, but that's besides the point. Today, several hundred were released in the first of many waves set to repopulate America's bird across the continent. Journalists and reporters were in awe as they soared into the skies, symbolizing the very spirit of the reunited states itself. I'm not crying, it's just dust in my eye. I feel that, dude. I feel that. Our plane bomber. Very nice. And we got another rocket ready. Ah! Finally, NORAD's online! I can get DEF CON finally situated. I mean, holy, why does it take so long? Hold on. No. Actually, yes. Let's get you down. Sure, launch it. And prepare another one while you're at it. Him. No. Borders, no. No. Development projects, no. Procurement of things, no. Powering the Hoover Dam, still no. Territorial disputes, no. Where's getting Safe Haven in? Like, oh, here it is. 7 days. Alright, that's not too long. It is what it is. Alright, NORAD online. How long do I have until you are done? 6 days? That's not too long. The President today oversaw the reassumption of operations at the North American Aerospace Defense Complex in Cheyenne Mountain to a crowd of military officials and a few onlookers who happened to be in the Colorado Springs area at the time. The President thanked the hard work of the men and women who managed to get the old base back up and running, as well as reinforcing the point that the United States is here to protect America, and that this was a vital part of America's defense. Operations at the complex are expected to open up in the coming days, and the Air Force is eager to begin operations. I feel safer already. United States completes focus DEFCON. Oh. Well, isn't that nice?
Enclave here.
Alright, launch your operation. What the hell was that? Oh. Yeah, that pretty much sums things up. It's just the same thing as last time. Squids in space and all that. The DEFCON system. The Defensive Readiness Condition, or DEFCON, is the manner at which the military will be prepared for combat. Each level gives a series of buffs toward the whole of the military and enhances their capabilities as a fighting force. However, the higher on the list it goes, the greater social unrest, war support, as well as political power gain is affected. The DEFCON levels are DEFCON 1, highest attack, highest movement, greatest production but slashes political power gain, and war support with the highest state of social unrest. It is also only available for 30 days, in which case it must be chosen again. DEFCON 2, higher attack, higher movement, greater production but lower political power gain and war support. DEFCON 3, high attack, high movement, high production but low political power gain and war support. DEFCON 4, buff to attack, movement, production, but debuff to political power gain and war support. DEFCON 5, standard DEFCON level and provides no buffs or debuff. Seems straightforward. Add DEFCON 5, okay, weekly war support, plus 10%, war penalty stability modifier, plus 10%, political power gain, plus 10. Awesome, cool. Drawing the border. Awesome, I think we just handed more territory over them, technically speaking. Herlong Farms, awesome. Nicely done, Chemical Corps. But for the moment, I'm going to ignore reading that. Sign of the future, no. Link to NORAD, yes. Alright, soldiers might be content with high nutrition rations, but their families and other support civilians won't exactly take too kindly to this palette. Just south of Herlong are the remains of some farms, but trying to get anything to grow in this wasteland is a Herculean task at the best of times, and would likely need a miracle. Somehow, the Chemical Corps provided that miracle. Colonel Dowdy, the off-putting but pleasant head of the Chemical Corps, after it was vacated by Dr. Curling II, apparently had a pet project to try and restore the soil around the area. Apparently, she had a breakthrough. Sort of. It's a chemical that she curated through several weeks of controlled testing that even she admits won't likely ever be able to be replicated on a mass scale. However, she's sick of eating depot food and wants to enjoy some actual food again. If it means getting rid of her entire stock, then that is a sacrifice she is willing to make. She's also turned over some of her research to assist us in trying to restore soil and design more hardy plants for the future. Score 1 for the Chemical Corps? Oh, right, Dolly. The one that got, I think, gender swapped at the EPA offices. The last patrol. Rumors of American ghosts reached even into California. Of course, when we found Major General Harrison and his forces still clinging onto the American dream, we didn't believe it. While by now any lineage to their actual units are long gone, the remnants of the Oklahoma National Guard still walk the wastes, and many of them are willing to serve the United States and the Enclave in this endeavor. While many are hesitant to allow them in, especially seeing as they're being led by a near feral ghoul, their prowess and skill cannot be overlooked. Let their patrol end. They've done almost 200 years of service.
This is Enclave main comm. Enclave here.
Well, yes, that's nice. The veteran units are great and all. I don't really care for them. Ooh, urban plasma rifles. Very nice. And they have APA Advanced Power Armor Mark IIs. That's interesting. We'll switch you over to the last American Guard. And I guess add you to a new army. Rebecca Whitehall, congratulations. You are now in charge of this division. I guess. Whole lot of more stuff to read. Great. We don't really need to move up the DEFCONs all that much. Could start rebuilding the Rockies, though. Pacific Northwest, the EPA. Just going through more stuff. Okay, yeah, I think we're about done with most stuff. More than a few scholars, we consider Lone Star to be the hub of Texas. But along the prosperous I-10 and I-20 trade routes, Lone Star was bound to become a hotspot within Texas due to it being the center of commerce. However, law and order managed to prevail for the most part over the various merchants and gangs of the area, and Lone Star was no stranger to combat. Cho Bang and the lawmen managed to keep the gangs and even super mutants at bay, still retaining power within the old Texas Economic Union. They even went toe-to-toe with Santa Ana at one point just prior to our arrival. Today, as America returns east and the city has happened on something of an economic boom and renaissance as settlers and merchants move through the city to greener wastes, along with the large military contingent setting up at Dias Air Force Base in Fort Hood. Sirens of Oklahoma. Oh, lordy. Lordy lord. The remains of Oklahoma lay one of the most disturbing of discoveries we've ever made. We're unsure if we had a hand in it, or if it was some twisted corruption of man, science, and greed. A pre-war experiment dedicated to the psionic potential of FEV. Every aspect of this freak show has soldiers on edge, and what's worse are the mindless thralls that were once common wastelanders. A few security logs show that they once did battle with the remnant of the Oklahoma National Guard, using these mindless thralls as expendable inventory. Now that we're in control, it's best to not let this one die. It's best to let this one die. Sorry. The very notion of breaking someone's free will is enough to send shivers down one's spine. Imagine if a purist or some supremacist gets a hold of these recordings. If they manage to pull it off, the backlash alone could destroy everything the United States has worked for up until this point. Everything in regard to this cursed facility will be destroyed and buried, recovered and covered over by saying the Oklahoma Guard killed mutants from a West Tech FEV facility. Hey, one of their songs is "They Will Wake Me Up." This will be useful in future updates. Study the recordings. Sure, but I guess it's not useful to us now, which sucks. But it is what it is. A local Stars and Stripes at Sierra. A local ghoul has taken over the remains of an old Dots diner in Herlong and has restored it to full working order, along with working out a deal with a local caravan company to supply food. The Stars and Stripes at Sierra Diner and Trade Post has since become a massive hit with the military members at the nearby base and their families, and has brought life back to the area. Along with the food served, the area around his has become something on an open marketplace for travelers wishing to trade their goods with the residents of Herlong. The owner of the establishment was asked why they chose here of all places, and was quoted as saying they were inspired by the Pioneer Saloon out in the Mojave and wanted their own little place to call their own. I'll make a note to eat there. That seems nice. I think the only nations remaining right now are, the Fringe and this Belden Area Authority up north, and then the guys down south, which I'm just going to give to Mexico. I might give some territory to Honduras, actually. Why not? Anyway, let's see here. Pre-war, if one was injured in Herlong or even on base and it was serious, they would be evacuated either by ambulance or helicopter to Reno. We don't have that luxury anymore, and we doubt anyone wants to ride on a Brahmin cart all the way to New Reno. While Fort Sierra does have an advanced medical facility underground, it's primarily for the personnel stationed on base, though it can be used in an emergency. However, for day-to-day checkups and the like, something else is needed. Working with the followers of the Apocalypse, we've managed to expand on some old shops and turn them into a triage clinic and surgery center, as well as a small outpost for the followers themselves. The base nearby has given them a few reprogrammed Mr. Gutsy and Mr. Handys for use to supplement their manpower. The followers fund much of the operation, as well as provide supplies by the base such as stim packs, medical tools, and the aforementioned robots. They are, however, asking for donations and have a list of materials that can be donated from the local populace. Kinda defeats the purpose, doesn't it? I suppose a little bit, but that's fine. Yeah, take care of it. Honduras, you get this. Do I want to give them this too? Yeah. Mexico. You get those two. Congratulations, you get more stuff.
This is Enclave main com.
Yeah, just go ahead and push across the river.
Enclave here.
Alright, now we got NORAD. Awesome. Push up there, please. Thank you. As NDOC mission expands, a direct link to the NORAD command center has been established. NORAD's early warning systems and greater access to classified pre-war nuclear information will go a long way in keeping America safe from the threat of pre-war nuclear weapons falling into the wrong hands. This has also allowed for NORAD to take stock of what nuclear weapons we have recovered, creating a backup site in case NDOC is taken offline. They've also begun monitoring Chicago, though most information coming out of the Enclave-controlled city is scarce at best. That just leaves one final question. The nuclear question. The world was scoured in nuclear fire. What is more, America nearly died in a second nuclear blast that destroyed the rig. The question now is, what do we do with our nuclear arsenal? Good question. Good question indeed. Changing of the guard. Interesting. Hold on, I'm gonna have to read that in a minute. It sounds interesting. I feel like there's something important about that.
Enclave here.
Can I just, like...
Enclave here.
Crush that, please. And thank you.
Enclave here.
I'm surprised these guys haven't fallen
Enclave here.
more than anything else. Yeah, the fringe is like 0 or less. Seriously? 0 or less. Okay. I don't think I've ever seen that before. 0 or less. Like what? How do you have 0 or less victory points? Is that even possible?
This is Enclave main com.
Whatever, just take those two spots and I think that'll be enough. Seriously?
This is Enclave main com. Enclave here. This is Enclave main com.
Alright, for the moment we're just gonna ignore that so I can get these two done. Alright, Herlong Police Station. With the expansion of the depot, the military police detachment on the base has to focus more and more on the base itself. As such, we've restored some old office buildings and set up a small police station to handle the town. Aside keeping the peace, they will also be handling the occasional giant insect attack and patrolling in case a wayward Deathclaw is stalking through the night. With the incentive of a bonus, we've reached out to the new Reno police to assist us in this endeavor. Said officers arrived a few days ago and are adjusting from the change from big city policing to small town policing. There is some friction between the military members now living in Herlong, but for the most part it's gone over smoothly. Mostly they'll be doing anyway is watching for the soldiers, kids doing whatever it is wasting kids do these days. It'll buff out. Changing of the guard. Oh, I think I know what this is. It was a light, snowy day at Colorado Springs. Despite forecasts to the contrary, it fell regardless, almost as if the heavens were weeping. In the center of a reclaimed park stood a newly built monument, a single black obsidian obelisk. On the side, dozens of names were engraved, those who were on duty at NORAD on 23rd December 2077, those who watched the world end in nuclear fire, those who never made it out of the facility alive, those whose remains were recovered, identified, and entombed beneath the obelisk. President Granite stood before the monument. Around the president stood a few military personnel and the new staff of a restored NORAD, of whom would soon begin work protecting America's skies once more. A crowd had also gathered to watch the ceremony, though more from curiosity than understanding of what the monument represented. The president approached the monument with a somber expression and saluted the fallen airmen and officers. Military members followed suit, as well as the crowd in varying degrees. Not a single word was uttered. A moment of silence for those who had fallen. Rest easy. Your watch is done.
Enclave here.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's just dust. Don't worry about it. God bless America. God bless. The nuclear question. For the moment, I'm just gonna pause that.
Enclave here.
Right there.
Enclave here. This is Enclave Maincom. This is Enclave Maincom.
Alright. The nuclear question. Granite had a decision before them. One not set since Truman first gave the order that started this long circus show. Indoc and NORAD were recovering nuclear weapons left and right, but the question on many lips was whether to arm the bombs or destroy them. Many argued that the myriad of threats in the wasteland, from Chicago to beyond, necessitated the need for nuclear weapons. Who knows when we would come across a threat that a soldier in power armor and rifle couldn't handle. Others were against using weapons that ended the old world, pointing out that eventually there would be a time when the idea of using nuclear bombs would seem palatable, just like at the onset of the Great War, and we would have learned nothing. On the president's desk sat 2 executive orders, drafted up by staffers and left for the president to ponder over what to sign and decide the fate of the wasteland's future. Dismantle our nuclear arsenal or bring our nuclear arsenal online? Disarm. There are no nuclear people left. No one is left to stand in the way. And certainly no one capable of nuclear weapons.
This is Enclave Maincom. Enclave here. I see. Enclave here. I see.
Well, we've disarmed ourselves. No more nuclear bombs. It's for the best. I was almost going to let it be decided by another dice flip, but I've decided no. Again, seriously, stop with the war crimes. Ah! I'm going to have to start court-martialing. I really am. Alright, recapturing Los Alamos. Suffice to say, we were a little shocked to discover a colony of ghouls living at Los Alamos, many of whom were remnants of the research scientists and military guards there. While the research into born ghouls is frightening, Indoc wishes to return the facility to working order, more particularly finding ways to combat radiation from our myriad of nuclear materials and systems across the wasteland. Several of the ghoul scientists left have wished to come aboard, though it's obvious that they can't stay in the facility. A noble goal indeed. White Sands Research Center. White Sands, the place where it all began. When humanity came to a fork in the road and took the path that led to some of the greatest inventions in history and led us down the path to the Great War. While nuclear testing on American soil was drawn down in the lead up to the Great War, White Sands took on another purpose, researching what combat would be like on a radioactive battlefield. Some of this data was used by our predecessors, but the bulk of it was left behind due to the Enclave's focus on small unit operations. Now, with this under our control, we can put much of this data to use. At the same time, Indoc is having to secure the place from certain crazed religious groups who apparently worship the Trinity site. Why would you worship what destroyed us? I don't know. The Pacific Submarine Fleet was the cornerstone of the Navy's contribution to the nuclear triad. At any given time, 13 ballistic nuclear submarines were stationed off China's coast, and Kitsap supplied every last one of them. When in-dock technicians pried open the storage doors, we found a few dozen nuclear warheads laying in wait. Having survived the hellish cold of Washington, most were so badly decayed that they were radioactive ice balls. Regardless, Indoc have recovered all of them, and cursory assessments show that you could build a few functional bombs out of these. A horrifying thought knowing who controlled this area not too long ago. The Navy and Indoc are beginning procedures to dismantle both the bombs and the storage, closing this chapter of nuclear destruction once and for all. Good thing the Brotherhood never got these. Do I have oh, it's just 3 more. Never mind. I have the patience to read 3. Lawrence Liverpool National Labs, LLNL, is centered on the safety, security, and reliability of America's nuclear weapons. As such, INDOC has a large interest in the facility, none the least of which because the data stored here was wide-reaching applicants to INDOC's mission. Primarily the safe and secure storage of nuclear weapons and how we can better dispose of them. One of LLNL's primary missions just before the bombs dropped was how to disable nuclear weapons, something that would be pretty pertinent if anyone came across an undetonated nuclear bomb. The Enclave on the rig didn't see this information as useful, as they would just blow it up. However, we are no longer at the Enclave of the rig, and INDOC will put this information to great use should we find any. How comforting. Awesome. Pantex secured. Hidden away in Amarillo, Pantex was hit hard by nuclear weapons, and much of the base became an irradiated hellhole after the war. However, the pre-war government knew this, and much of the base's facilities were moved underground with help from Vault-Tec. Sadly, the constant false alarms meant no one heeded the warning until the first bomb hit Amarillo, and the rest was history. While the surface was largely scoured, underneath it was only irradiated, and we can fix that easily. As such, it has become the most important site for INDOC capture, a priority 1 target on the list since the command's inception. Pantex was a primary nuclear weapons assembly and disassembly facility, and as such, it will become the new home of the Nuclear Defense Operations Command. Given its purpose to disassemble nuclear weapons, INDOC plans to refurbish and upgrade the base to further dismantle any and all nuclear weapons we find. Given that there is only a finite number left in the wasteland, it plans to turn the base into a command and control center where it can coordinate better than its current center in Ashton Airfield Base. It is INDOC's hope that Pantex disassembly systems will be shut down for good, and we will never have to use nuclear weapons again. Maybe we can clean up this planet. Alright, Kirtland Nuclear Weapons Center. What was once the Air Force Nuclear Weapons Center has survived the 200 years relatively intact. Of course, the bombs that hit the area damaged much of the base. The intervening 200 years in a dry and arid desert has done little to damage it further. Coupled with the automated defenses meant few scavengers picked up the base apart. Those defenses thankfully answered to our codes, and after the Air Force secured the facility, NDOC teams moved in to begin restoration of the base itself. As per executive order, the facility is being restored and retooled for nuclear disarmament. The weapons and integration technology at the base is more than capable of dismantling any nuclear weapons we come across in the wasteland. NDOC technicians are already overhauling the base as we speak and creating a direct route from the airfield to the facility when we find any errant nuclear weapons. And Lanius was sitting on this. Oh, Lord have mercy. Belgium had a navy? How the fuck did you have a navy? Oh, I guess waterway. Alright, and then there was one. Pursuit. Well, that's disappointing, but doesn't really matter. Fortress America. Alright, is there any more focuses that I can do? I could restore more bases, I guess. Again, if you guys want to read those, you can when it comes up, but I'm not going to read them. I'll leave them on the screen long enough for you guys to research, or to read them, but otherwise I don't care enough. What else is there to do? Operation Damocles, can't really do that one, can we? The Texclave. Don't really need that. Operation Domino, again, don't need that either. The Great White North, really the only, not Enclave. We are the Enclave. The only, what's it called? Commonwealth project we have left.
Enclave here.
Great White North, way up in the Great Northern Commonwealth. Hold on.
Yeah, you can say that again.
Order those guys to go there. That was actually, that was completed a lot quicker than I thought it would be. I thought it would have taken longer. Also, let's get this civilian education dealt with. What drives people to the Great North? The adventure, the sights, the untapped riches that lie beneath its mountains? Maybe it's the sights of Yellowstone National Park. Whatever the reason, the President has traveled to Great Falls, Montana to announce the reformation of the Great Northern Commonwealth. Citing the resources of the Great Northern Commonwealth, the administration in Great Falls has announced a program to sponsor any and all individuals and their families for work projects as well as security work for said postings. Even with the threat of the weather, raiders and errant tribals that once controlled the pre-war city, the needs of the nation have been identified as paramount. Of course, there's also the news of caravan routes opening in the far north, especially with the prospect of river trade routes to the Missouri River and beyond. Many caravans are introducing higher wages after being met with a lukewarm response, ironically not because of the danger, but because of the weather of Montana and the Dakotas. Yes, it's cold, we get it. Rotary engine bombers, awesome. And I can get super fortresses researched. And that takes care of that. Alright, Guerras de Honduras. You get that. Republic of Mexico. You will get everything else. This seems right. Yes, this seems good. Oh. Can I return that to Canada? I think I can return it to Canada. Fund the College of the Followers, I guess. Not that we're really caring about any of those, but just keep researching stuff. Our intelligence crew deployed to the structure's control room thankfully managed to power on the old pre-war computers with the help of some portable fusion devices. Okay. Cool. Again, I think you guys can read that if you want to. I don't care at this point. USSA Mission Control. Oh, and to Starlight Express. Let's do Starlight Express first. Free infrastructure is pretty good. Oh, it's just an invisible icon. Okay, that makes sense. Now, the only nations that are left are the Dominion of Canada, the United States, and the Republic of Mexico. Oh, and hey, as an advanced nation, complete the air tech tree. Oh, and also Guerras de Honduras. I gave it probably a little more territory than it technically owns, but shut up, I wanted to do it. I can do what I want! With the recapture of Houston, so too have we recaptured the Johnson Space Center. Restoring it and linking it with our operations in Bloomfield will allow us to launch additional missions to the stars and soon beyond. And we also got Super Fortress. We got an achievement too, which is pretty neat. We got through the entire air tech tree, which is pretty cool. Not a whole lot anymore, actually. Got weapons, I guess, but don't really need any of those. What to do, what to research. I guess impact-resistant chassis might be good. There's not a whole lot to do now. Again, these are just going to keep popping up for a little while. You guys can read these if you want to. I don't care enough. Alright. Pause the game and I'm just going to click through this as I go. There's that one. There's this one. There's this one. This one. Cool. Awesome. Oh, some technology. That's interesting. And then this one. Okay, cool. You guys would have gotten time to read through that. Houston, you have a problem. Houston itself, while a massive port city that is vital for both economic expansion and production, held in it the jewel of the USSA, its headquarters. Going in, we expected another derelict ruin, possibly overrun by raiders and mocking irony. Instead, the entire complex was in relative good condition, and the schematics and technologies left over from before the war was still intact. This was thanks in large part that the Houston governing body was descended from the USSA, and kept the place in order all this time. With Bloomfield in Arizona, and now here in Houston, we now have yet more opportunities to explore space around our planet, and perhaps even beyond. We have liftoff. This will have more impact in later updates. Okay, so it's not quite completed yet. But still pretty cool. Not a whole lot to do. I'm running out of focuses, which doesn't make much sense. I'm ignoring some places. But there's supposed to be an event for out in the ocean, but it's not triggering yet, and I don't know why. Like, it should have triggered by now. I'm 100% sure it was supposed to. Sentry Bot Mark II. Cool. Guess I'm still not gonna bring those guys back. Down Mexico Way, no. United Space Administration. Let's prepare and launch another one. Why not? Let's also do this one since I can. Garden of Eden kits, no. Taking out the trash, no. No one's left. Just gonna click through these events and we can just go through them as the ending ones. Ah. Oh, this is interesting. 3 capital ships in Kitsap Peninsula, at least 5 ships in Kitsap Peninsula, 7 ships in Kitsap Peninsula. Okay. Hey Don, where's my navy? Come on, guys, it's not that hard, is it? You. Where did you want me to go? Kitsap's something something? Kitsap's naval base, I think, is what it wanted me to go. Yeah, Kitsap's Peninsula. I think that should be enough ships. I think it should be fine. Completed that. Liberator bot. Huh. Interesting. But unavailable to us. The truth of Quere Verum. Callahan sat in his office in Red Mountain. It was not uncommon for the colonel to work late, and this was no exception. He read several reports from the recent episodes of leaks across the country. It was his job, alongside the Secret Service, to find these leaks and stop them, as well as trace the source of the leaks. Navigating on his terminal to his investigation file, he opened up the leak source data and smiled at his simple duplicity. Quere Verum has succeeded beyond his wildest expectations. No one would suspect the guy leading the investigation from the military intelligence side of the house was the source of the leaks. Oh, it was difficult, but the amount of trust he had accumulated meant no one would ever suspect him. And working alongside the Secret Service, he was well able to stay ahead of the curve, misdirect, or change course if need be. Remembering back to the day in the Navarro archives, he remembered as his soldiers dutifully burned centuries of documents. Granite's orders were clear: burn all the papers. Destroy the records. Granite never did clarify that Callahan couldn't copy them. He hit enter, and another set of documents were set out into the aether. There was a fundamental flaw. Enclave super soldier programs before Horrigan. Programs like Sarge or Sphinx and the original Atlas they never really produced loyalty to the president, just the country as a whole. Kind of an oversight. He laughed, taking a sip from his coffee. There was also another line he heard often repeated back in the days of the rig. You never really could trust Enclave intelligence. That traitorous? That's clever. He's a traitor! Traitor! It is what it is. I don't really care either way, to be honest. I'm just being dramatic. Ooh, what's this? This seems cool. What you're seeing is an artist's recreation of what our crew saw today floating up in space. Several dozen swarmed our spaceship, shaking our crew to near hysteria. As our ground crew listened on in horror, our astronauts began describing in terror that some were trying to open hatches, while others were congregating around the ship's engine. In a moment of blind luck, one of our astronauts instituted an emergency shutdown of the rocket's main engines and reactor. Despite the dropping temperature inside the ship, the creatures eventually moved on, having apparently been attracted by the heat of the ship gave off. Oh, that's just a little bit disturbing. Honestly, I could probably just, like, get rid of my entire army at this point, but I'm not going to, because I don't care. Because I do what I want. Thank you very much. Canadian liaison, don't really care. Sign of the future, sure, why not? What started as an EPA test site for milk contamination following on from Operation Schooner soon expanded in the late 2060s following the realization that nuclear war could be a thing. Called the Schooner Hotel to keep prying communist eyes away, the test site housed numerous animals, plants, and food stocks to test their reaction to radiation. The data retrieved would prove invaluable to anyone trying to survive in a post-nuclear environment. Perhaps it was the name that kept bodies like the Brotherhood or the followers in the apocalypse from investigating the site. Schooner Hotel doesn't exactly invite the idea of food research. Perfect. Get the research out immediately. Increases population growth by 2% every month. Very nice. Ah, here it is. What I was hoping for. Those countries don't exist anymore, game. More development projects, I guess. Legacy of Vault 100. And of course our ships are still moving up there. I think that's about everything. We're running out of content at this point. Oh wait. Oh. Whatever this says, I can't pronounce that. I'm not going to try. Dam might not be as grand as the Hoover Dam or as technologically as marvelous as the Hephaestus project, yet only a fool would see this old dam as anything but just as vital, if not more so. Whereas Hoover had infrastructure and Hephaestus has raw power, the lands around the are as barren as they come from the wasteland. Since wresting control of the dam from its previous owners, we've managed to repair much of the damage thanks in part to our experience at Hoover, while swaths of the Midwest can now be powered and extending our range. Quite the feat given our entire project started from humble beginnings in Gecko's nuclear power plant. Power for the future. Awesome. Wow, that's 500 things of power. The Hephaestus Project. Before the Great War, Poseidon Energy began to tap the magma beneath the Yellowstone caldera to build the world's largest geothermal power plant. The ecologists refused to finish the great work, but we're in charge now. If activated, Hephaestus could power the region as a sort of Hoover Dam for the North. Unlike Poseidon, we aren't interested in corporate greed, nor are we willing to cut corners anymore. We have the best minds of the Enclave, the followers, and the NCR at our disposal. The project can be easily completed without disturbing Yellowstone's natural beauty, which incidentally took a massive hit by fallout from the Great War. Light up the North! The Baron's Land. Trade caravans going through the former Baron's Ire have complained about a recent rise in raider attacks along their routes, so much so that several caravan companies have called for the FBI to assist. The senior agent, suspicion, immediately fell the leader of the former Ire, who has started offering caravan security at increased rates. We're not stupid. We've seen this before in Neutrino, the Hub, and Freeside. Just short of accusing him of what we know, the FBI pressed the question if the Baron knew of anyone who would be dumb enough to create a protection racket, because that person would meet a swift end. The senior agent reported the Baron grew very reserved and declined knowing anyone. It was sheer coincidence that the FBI's field office main base of operations was targeted with sniper fire the next day, all of whom were gunned down. Agents are requesting an executive action to remove of said issue. In the eyes of the law, no one is above it. Gets events of barons and bailouts. Okay, Augustus Bailey was a survivor. He clawed whatever ounce of power he ever had, survived cons, free staters, the Syaks, and everyone in between. Like hell he was going to let some wannabe pretender to a dead government. Grayson, of course, had heard this all before. It would make sense that many of this far into the east would not exactly heard of the Enclave. There were rumors, of course. The MacArthur detachment, Chicago, a supposed expedition into the area, even the rumors stemming from Texas. So, as he laid out all the charges, the Wyoming Baron just laughed and seemed to think he'd get out of this unscathed. Before Grayson could remind him, the Bailey slid him a stack of pre-war dollars, which Grayson nodded. His time in Vault City made him no stranger to bribes. Oh, not how this is going to work, smiled Grayson, as he picked up the cash and stuffed it into his suit. Augustus had none of it, however. You just going to take my money like that and go? Grayson just shrugged. What money? Trial will conclude in roughly 20 days, gain 350k in CR dollars, gets event the trial of the Baron. Church of the Silo. Forward units have encountered a crazy religious cult inhabiting one of our old missile bases. Thankfully, they had no intention of launching the missiles, but instead were releasing or worshipping the radiation within, which of course raised some alarm. While they were at first friendly, they eventually started shooting at us once we told them to vacate the government property they were trespassing on. Thankfully, their radiation-powered weapons were utterly useless against ghoul infantry, which we were able to rapidly overrun their defenses and secure the site. Our engineers are now working to get the base up and running, adding more missiles to the stockpile that we have in Hopeville. It seems that the United States is back as a superpower, even if we don't have the whole country back. Great. 2 nuclear missile bases. That's nice. We're gonna deactivate the bombs later. The Great Breach and the Deadline. Across the river from Rapid City lurks a particular nasty variant of mutant that has plagued the lands for centuries. A vertebrate flyover led the pilots to finding the reason for this horde, a breach in the old Midwest containment depot, now known as the Deadline. At first a quarantine zone for the new plague, the pre-war government began dumping dissidents, communist sympathizers, and other unwanted individuals in there. Now it seems to be a mess of survivors fighting back and the horde of undying mutants flooding out of every broken orifice. We know the records in there could implicate us and destroy what legitimacy we've regained over the past few years, it might be best to launch a sustained campaign to clear out the Horde and the deadline once and for all. Fire. Fire solves everything. Reclamation Army Depot. Most of our pre-war bases and forts are either stripped clean, rotting away, or overrun by robots or post-war maladies. Usually robots due to the high amount of automation the war with China caused. Places like Sierra Army Depot are far and few between, which was a great surprise when Army forces approached Reclamation Army Depot and was greeted by General H47, who not only recognized our codes, but recognized us as Enclave. The good robot general, self-promoted mind you, has been dutifully carrying out his orders at the depot for the past 200 years, though he's been distracted by the mutant escapees from Deadline. He's more than happy to relinquish command of the base over to the US Army, as 200 years has not been kind to his circuitry and servo joints. Stand down, General. Your watch is over. Awesome. How many of these do I have? Like, half a dozen. Oh, wow. I was kidding before, but now I think it is actually more than a dozen, easy. How much more time do I want to dedicate to this video? It's fine. This is gonna be, I already said it was gonna be an extra long video anyway. Phoenix has seen better days, and in the wasteland that's saying something. As the economic center of the Legion, it was a prime target for the Air Force, and it has left the city in utter ruins. Of course, this is nothing new in Phoenix. In the decades that followed the Great War, the city became a breeding ground for chaos and tyranny. A fanatical cult, the Church of the Hoi4, rose from the ashes of a pretty pacifist and humanitarian religious group, with its members being mostly dedicated to the collection and preservation of pre-war books. Of course, nothing stays the same in the wasteland. Preaching a twisted doctrine of fire and rebirth, and holding the city in a grip of terror. However, as Caesar's Legion expanded its brutal empire across the southwest, Phoenix transformed into a major economic hub under their control, infamous as a massive slave trading center that fueled the Legion's war machine. Our campaign was just another piece in Phoenix's sordid history post-war. Since the city's liberation, all markings of the Legion were demolished, and the surviving population was liberated and given the chance to rebuild their lives under our protection. Ironically, the old slave-holding pens are now housing captured legionaries as we figure out what to do with them. The city's infrastructure was revitalized, with a focus on restoring essential services and rebuilding the iconic Arizona state capital, symbolizing the return of lawful governance to the region and not wasteland tyranny. We've since seen Phoenix reinstated as the capital of Arizona, marking a new era of prosperity and freedom. The reclamation of Phoenix was celebrated as a major victory, not only for the United States, but for all who believed in the promise of a renewed America. Right, what do we do with the legionaries? Alright, the capital of Arizona is returned to Phoenix. Okay, some infrastructure. Whew, sorry, there's a lot of text I read probably really quickly. Shapa Wagner stood before the smoldering, still radioactive remains of Tunkaskila Sakpi Paha, or six grandfathers. Enclave Reborns from the EPA flew over the area, dumping chemicals on top in hopes of containing radioactive decay from. Gadden stood beside her, seeing the destruction of Mount Rushmore, remembering the fire and rage that had been kicked off in the Western White House when they had been informed of the Psyox's actions. As he said to Granite and the rest of that day, he turned to ask Wagner, "So, do we continue the cycle?" he asked. "The mountain is gone, yet we are still here, and we are going to keep killing each other?" "Do not patronize me on killing," spat Wagner. "Then you are doomed. Doomed as the Enclave was, to keep destroying, to keep killing, to keep trying to avenge something that we ourselves had no part in. Nuclear Armageddon couldn't destroy our people. How many more bombs need to go off before we stop their destruction? Because that is where it gets us." He pointed to the smoldering radioactive remains before them. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't want it. I'm asking to end the cycle of destruction, because all it is ever going to lead to is one more bomb. Because where is it going to land next?" Shapa let out a frustrated sigh. Tunkasila Sakpi Paha was never coming back, but maybe, just maybe, there were better ways to shape the future. War never changes, but people can. I'm a little irritated that the White House, sorry, not the White House, the, blasted. That we did lose Mount Rushmore. That's, so irritating. Because I've not lost it, on a few occasions. Like, there have been times that I've managed to get it before it's gotten destroyed. But I couldn't get it this run. That's so irritating. Restoring Pierre. Pierre is a bit of an oddity in the wasteland. They are ever fearful of the Canadian invasion, proud of their Crow heritage, and have been doing battle with the Dam Busters and the other threats that have come out of the Plague Lands for the past few decades. Upon our revival, the city was still in relatively good shape and was benefiting from increased trade both in caravans and along the river. Not that they didn't attempt to put up a fight, it was that they were focused on a different fight altogether. While nominally the threat has always been the Dam Busters, who were wary of the power they held over their precious dam. Recently, however, expeditions into the subway tunnels underneath the city have caused the Crow to mobilize, and now it's become our problem. When our troops arrived, the city militia was training how to fight in close quarters combat, and techniques we recognize when fighting against feral ghouls. Thankfully, power armor is a wonder in itself, and while some resisted, they were more fearful of something else. We managed to exert control over both the dam and the city itself. However, everything is pointing to a terror underground. A small patrol past their forward positions revealed a network of tunnels that could run for miles. Enclave intelligence has looked through it and determined that they're likely linked up to the Nebraska quarantine zone, which yes, stretched into South Dakota. Callahan has pointed out that if we're ever to return this area to normal, we're going to need to clear out the network underneath Nebraska and Nevada sooner rather than later. Okay, the capital of South Dakota was returned to Pierre. More coming soon. Oh, that's unfortunate. But it's good to see that they're still doing a whole bunch of stuff with this. Which is awesome. I love seeing new content. Yes. I'm going to end this if it goes over 2 hours and 30 minutes. Like I said, extra long, but I have my limits. Denver is a special case in the wasteland. Not the least of which is because it is a city overrun with dogs. While controlled by the hand dogs, they never control the city itself. Instead, they roam the outskirts, while the city itself was overrun with thousands of packs of wild dogs. Despite all this, there came a distinct salvage culture. These salvagers formed a relationship with the hand dogs that changed somewhat with the arrival of Caesar, and more or less ended upon our arrival. Thankfully, we were better equipped to handle things than tribals, salvagers, or the legions. Killing those dogs wouldn't be a problem. It's just that all those packs of feral dogs are all ran by saber dogs, and they can get nasty. Thankfully, we managed to get our hands on the old shutdown signal from Denver PD and neutralized all the cyber dogs and brought them into our employ. All that was left was to send in the army sporting power armor, air support, mechanized units, and itchy trigger fingers. We've managed to clear out large swaths of this so-called Dog City. Already, salvagers, settlers, and caravans have made for the legendary mountain city. While some are still calling it Dog City due to old maps and parlance, we've been enforcing its real name, Denver, on all official papers, as well as in the official documents as the state government reasserts its claim on the old capital. Now, if we can do something about the smell... Not anytime soon. Dog City changed to Denver. Dog City was renamed to Denver. 1,000 units of American Cyberdog is added to the national stockpile. Wait. What? Wait, why did they need slaves? The Secret Service took out the Gatling guns guarding the reservation with a few fat men, and overran the facility with minimal Enclave casualties, and its secrets were revealed when we stormed a room labeled the Green Chamber. The vast contained humans with bloated stomachs and was dead silent, save for a baby's cry. Somehow, the ghouls had created a ghoul baby. One of the ghouls claimed these tests would ensure a future for ghouls, with additional refinement, but most found using humans as broodmares to be horrific. Some of the ghouls plead for us to spare their youth, and claim that they could reproduce on their own. We'll strip the facility, obviously, but what do we do with these ghoul kids? Kill the monsters. We wept, and then we remembered Zion. We may have liberated the people of Utah, but its inhabitants don't seem to act like it. Many associate us with the Enclave purists who aided Caesar, and before the Great War, the United States government cracked down on Mormonism due to their opposition to security protocols. To Mormon eyes, we are occupying a people who have been free since the Great War. As such, new Canaanite guerrillas kill our brave men and women, fanatics who quote the words of Joshua Graham and swear to carry the fire of the Holy Spirit until they stand before the Lord for judgment. Although we promised that the First Amendment protects the Mormon faith, we have to do something to hold this troubled land down. Take it as it is. Wolverines? What? When we heard the lands of the Daoshu Lu and the Hexi Lu, we expected that they were Chinese escapees from Boulder Prison, or maybe from some other internment camp from elsewhere that we really didn't care about for after the Great War. Kinda like the Shi, but homegrown. Well, turns out they were more like the Shi than we realized, as both nations were remnants of a Chinese Special Operations Force deployed at the onset of the Great War to wreak havoc in America. The subsequent destruction of the world by nuclear bombs means that their mission ended before it could start, and they had no contact with the commies in China. Of course, that didn't stop them from being ghoulified, trying and failing to recreate what they considered true communism on American soil. Guess a series of disagreements over the past 200 so years meant they weren't all too successful, and having them be pushed around by Iron Lords, the Hand Dogs, and anyone else who decided to pick a fight. Well, what do you know? Even now, communism doesn't work. Bringing back Bismarck. Of all the former state capitals we've encountered so far, none have been in as good a state as Bismarck. Not only did the city avoid the worst of the bombs, but the remnants of the state government managed to survive in the harsh winters of the north and established itself as a vital trading hub and power in the region, surviving all the way until our arrival practically. Of course, that isn't to say the city exerts control over all of North Dakota, and the once vaunted North Dakota National Guard degraded into militia wearing their equipment by now. That isn't to say, however, Bismarck lost its status as a powerhouse in the region. It just had to adapt to the times. Key to this was its location on the Missouri River and the power of the River League, of which Bismarck was a part, as well as the fact that the town was home to a pre-war band of German refugees that created the first working Gauss rifle on American soil. This not only allowed a steady income that fueled the city's economy, trade, and river caravans that could afford guards from Bismarck knew well that they had the best money could buy in the region. So it only makes sense that we restore the city's title of capital of North Dakota once more, and use the influence on the river and caravan trade to reassert control over the region once more. Bit too cold, there for my tastes. Get with it. The one free man. During Linnaeus' conquest of New Mexico, his cohort came into conflict with the Lambda tribe, the remains of the old Lambda research facility from the pre-war days. Expecting an easy victory, the cohort was instead beset upon by an enigmatic figure known as the Free Man, who killed anyone that tried to stop him, waging a one-man war against the cohort and the Greater Legion, so much so that the image of the crowbar struck fear into many a legionary and was seen as a bad omen among their troops. It is said even Lannius himself feared the Free Man, though that one might be more legend than fact. Those stories persisted among Legion slaves we came across until we arrived in New Mexico, and the Free Man began assisting us in combat. His exploits seem impossible even in our own reports, and now that the Legion is defeated, he's wanting to join up in our army. Welcome back, Dr. Freeman. Freeman. I think it looks like the symbol represents a certain valve, one might say. Hold on. Just moving all these out of the way for a second. That's nice.
Enclave here.
Real quick. Freeman. Holy. Something about him is familiar. I don't know what it is. Doesn't matter. Keeping up with the times. Vault 24 wasn't intended as an experiment vault in Project Safe House. However, the residents of the vault seem to have developed a strange fascination with time, so much so that their impressive technical abilities seem almost secondary secondary to this strangeness. When questioned by our troops and representatives, they only answered in cryptic sentences, and when questioned further, only said that we would come to understand it in time. Suffice to say, the officer in charge was ready to annihilate the entire vault, but decided against it. Curiously, when we checked the data logs, our emissaries to the vault appear to have spent far longer in time inside the vault than outside. Our texts say it might be an issue with our system's internal chronometers, but for now we're willing to let Vault 24 become another version of Vault City in the Wasteland. Who's this doctor they speak of? Add the sands of time. That's interesting. Hell over Helena. Helena, Montana, a city once proud and prosperous, was reduced to a shadow of its former self after the Great War. Despite the devastation, Helena managed to endure, becoming a minor economic power along the post-war caravan routes. The city served as a crucial waypoint for traders and travelers moving through the greater Helena Valley. However, Helena's fragile existence was constantly threatened by the Stormmongers, a brutal raider tribe known for their sadistic practice of capturing people and turning them into kites, along with other methods of offering people to their so-called sky gods. The MacArthur Detachment and the Brotherhood of Steel did battle with these raiders until our operation in the area brought an end to their gruesome ways. Hopefully, now the practice of kiting will be a thing of the past. Already, local militias and even caravans in the region are sending out patrols to search for the last of the Stormmongers and bring an end to their reign of terror in the region. In the meantime, we've turned our attention to rebuilding Helena and officially reinstated as the capital of Montana. The city's infrastructure was restored, trade routes were secured, and the iconic Montana state capital is being slowly rebuilt as a symbol of a return to stability in the region. Thanks to the MacArthur Detachment's own operations, we've managed to establish a stronger than normal presence in the region, ensuring the safety of the local population and fostering economic growth. Kiting. That's the new one. Lincoln. Interesting. Recreating Cheyenne. Cheyenne, Wyoming, though scarred by the Great War, managed to survive as a modest but vital hub along the post-war caravan routes. Over the years, the city became a minor economic power in the region, a waypoint for traders and travelers navigating the harsh, irradiated landscape. Those scavenging in Denver found that Cheyenne was the perfect place to sell what they found in the city, since trade caravans headed in all directions. However, the fragile peace was shattered when a fanatical ghoul known as the Great Glowing One arrived in the region. Driven by a twisted belief that ghoulification was the next stage of human evolution, he began forcibly converting others into ghouls, creating a fanatical cult that terrorized the city and its surrounding areas. Suffice to say, by the time of our arrival, the situation had become dire. The once thriving trade routes were disrupted, and the city's human population was rapidly diminishing under the Great Glowing One's reign of terror. Even our ghouls were horrified at what was going on, and it was these ghouls that spearheaded the attack in Wyoming. With the threat eliminated, not only has the economic progress of Cheyenne been restored, we've officially reinstated as the capital of Wyoming, marking a new chapter in its history. The money flowing into the city, as well as the control it has over the nearby trade routes, has given us an edge in establishing order in the region, especially since our efforts are still hampered in Colorado. Good to hear. Oh, I need to breathe.
This is Enclave main comm.
Breathe, Dragon. Come on, breathe. You can only say so many words at a time. Whoa. I still have so many of these to go. This may have to go on to another video, which I really did plan on ending it on this one, but whatever, doesn't matter. Just keep going. In a weird repeat of over 400 years ago, a growing number of American citizens are demanding the return of the San Juan Islands. The islands themselves have been under the holding of New Victoria since its founding after the Great War. When we established diplomatic ties, Granite saw fit to leave the islands under their purview as a gesture of good faith towards the new alliance. Apparently, that gesture is destroying the fabric of American society, becoming quite the scandal in recent days. Many Americans demanding the islands back have been quoted saying the president is too soft and that the Victorian monarchy is taking advantage of American goodwill. Others are saying it is part of a Canadian conspiracy to take over all the United States. Of course, there are those who oppose the Dominion sovereignty altogether that have latched onto this and are using it as a talking point to denounce the president's decision. They are ours based upon the 1871 Treaty of Washington. Whatever. If they want it, fight us. With the destruction of the Maw, we need to decide what to do with the pirates who made it home. We could scatter them through the wastes, but some of the pirates claimed they were engaging in aggressive commerce, given the lack of protection for shipping in the region. Use them to revive the United States Merchant Marine. Add 3 building slots, 2 naval dockyards. We lose a little bit of base stability, but that's fine. But we get Masters of the Sea, which grants fleet speed while retreating plus 50%, naval max range factor of plus 50%, and manpower of 1,500. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, not too many. I want to see... And then we got all of those still going. All that still going. Even more of those still going. We can't go north to Alaska because we don't have any... We don't have our ships there in Kitsap Naval Base. But we'll unpause the game long enough to at least activate that. Restoring Salem. Salem, once the capital of Oregon, represents much of the state now as it did then. A freak horror show. Run by the longest time by the Rick Breakers, the cannibals would capture settlers and traders on the roads with their femur breakers, or rather bear traps, and drag them back to Salem to eat them. It's even more bizarre that so many here turn to cannibalism since they have access to the Willamette River and hunting mirelurks is far easier than hunting humans for food. Though the mirelurk worshipping tribes to the south might have something to do with that. In any respect, they continued this operation under the Troll warrant in capturing subjects for FEV dipping, and resisted the Brotherhood from up north all the same. Then we came along and put an end to this once and for all. Most of Salem has been reduced to ash as demo teams tore through the city, setting ablaze anything that resisted them. We rescued a few settlers, however. We're not sure if all of them are still sane after what we've seen. The state government has set up shop in Salem once again. It is constituting the Oregon State Police and National Guard to go after the remnants of the cannibals that have marred Oregon's reputation. No one likes cannibals. Restoring Olympia. Following the Great War, Olympia avoided the destruction that befell Washington's cities, ironically due to its proximity to Seattle and Joint Base Lewis McChord? Yeah. An emergency government made up of the state's surviving government and military personnel managed to hang on for some time, but as the weather worsened, things looked bleak. By 2275, it was all but abandoned, even the Washington Brotherhood didn't care for it and left it to its fate. We do know sometime in the late 2100s, ice lurks attacked the city, trying to use the surviving power plants to lay their eggs. After an ice lurk queen destroyed the old state capitol building, the city of Olympia was abandoned, and now it hardly shows up on caravan trade maps. Many of its survivors joined up with the Olympus tribe or made for Port Mall. Well, we're back, and yes, the ice lurks still reside in the city ruins, or rather, did reside in the city ruins. A concentrated campaign by the Air Force, Coast Guard, and Army managed to clear out the city, with the ice lurk queens being killed in an airstrike. What we found since is that the city is in remarkable condition despite being overrun with ice lurks. Much of the infrastructure is still intact, and with it, the state government is setting up shop and hoping to restore Washington to its former glory. What's an ice lurk? It's a mirelurk, but icy. The capital, Washington, was returned to Olympia, Joint Base Lewis McChord, add to infrastructure, and more victory points. That's cool. A little weird, but cool, I guess. In the wake of the Great War, Bose, Idaho, like much of the United States, was left in ruins. The harsh temperatures of the state and the lack of food meant many could no longer live in the city and were forced to move to areas along the Snake River and elsewhere further south. Over time, it fell off caravan maps, and all that remained was a wind-swept skeleton of the once great city. These remains eventually under the control of St. Michael's militant Church of Heaven's Gate, and he used boys as an example of those who came before and were destroyed in God's wrath. Of course, we're saying if Michael saw destruction, we see opportunity. The city itself is isolated from the religious zealotry that dominates Idaho, and that kind of stuff is hard to pierce. We've undertaken a massive restoration project to rebuild the city to focus away from the Christian seat of power in the mountains and usurp their power. The streets are being cleared of debris, vital infrastructure is well on its way to being repaired, and new buildings are beginning to rise from the ashes. The Idaho state government is setting up shop, and its first order of business is to clear out the remaining partisans in the mountains, a task that is not easy in the slightest. Hopefully, in time, the state, once a bastion of religious extremism, will serve as a shining example of the United States' commitment to rebuilding the nation, and that man doesn't need to live in fear of a brutal God, but instead enjoy the world that God has created. So, where is it on the map? Tri-States. Boys. Ah, here it is. Wow. Level 10 economic zone. That's neat. And these last two. President Granite. The engineers at the Hanford reactor site have reported ghoul squatters who refuse to leave. The ghouls claim they've maintained the plant since the Great War and demand compensation for repairing the facility. We could force them out, but they could damage the plant on the way out, and their resistance to radiation may be useful. What should we do? Give them stock in the new Cascadian Energy Company. The super mutant question. The troll Warren has given rise to an odd conundrum. Although obviously will execute the war criminals, a super mutant who used to live in Vault 6, Betty, has claimed that she and many of the super mutants are victims of circumstance, and they treated humans under their rule no worse than neighboring tribes would have. Betty, based on her Vault education, has invoked constitutional claims on behalf of her and the other super mutants and demands a place in the reunited states. And, of course, a captive population of super mutants could have economic applications. Honest labor will make them, honest, men. Available because he chose to integrate mutants. Okay. It's not too bad. Unpause the game. Where is my fleet? There it is. Just gonna take a little while. I can research more things while I'm here. There we go. The old country, an attempt at civilization, was born from Vault 100, whose insidious test was exposing half the vault to radiation. Those that survived turned into ghouls, and those who didn't go feral became the old country. The humans of Vault 100, however, went on to form the Rot Purgers, a raider faction that terrorized western Washington in their crusade to remove the affliction that mutated their Vault compatriots. By now, however, they are a force to be reckoned with in Washington, or were until we showed up. Much of their fanatical members lay dead before our feet, and those who survived are ranting about their leaders who will save them. Granted, when one of them is a self-styled raider crusader, some mutated woman from a lake, and someone who gets all his information out of an 8-ball toy, we're not concerned. Strange women and 8-balls distributing knowledge? That's no base for a system of governments. Erasing the monster of the East. New Mexico bears the scars of Lanius and the Legion. Populations wiped out, entire towns depopulated, and in their place are the Latin names that the Legion only knew as a parody of what they actually were. If we're going to erase the Legion, and especially Lanius, we're going to start right here in New Mexico. And of course, no better place than Camp Red Sun. Red Sun City itself managed to pay off Lanius through tribute and slave caravans, if nothing more than for survival. Better to sell a few heads than wind up dead, as they say. However, the eastern half of the city was given over to the Legion as payment, and it shows. When we tore through the region, many who had served under Lanius defended the city as if it was some holy site, and now engineer and construction teams are going to tear it all down. Of course, there remains the situation of the city's name as well as its surrounding area. How am I to know to take a right turn at Albuquerque? Going back to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Thank you. Scrap bicycles, awesome. There they are. At least some of them. Bringing back Salt Lake City. In the aftermath of the Great War, Salt Lake City was left in ruins and was more or less abandoned for some time aside from roving scavengers and trade caravans. The city fell under the control of the Mormons of New Canaan, who tried to bring stability and faith to the region as well as rebuild the old city to its pre-war glory. However, their efforts were eventually hampered by the relentless assaults of the White Leg tribe in the 80s, as well as the corruption and degradation of the New Canaan Mormons. By the time we successfully flew the Stars and Stripes once again flew over the city, it had clearly seen better days, and it looks as if the bombs had dropped once more, aside from the glowing green snow. The city has undergone a massive restoration effort, if nothing more. It's not only on vital caravan trade route, but river caravans are eager to sail the Snake River in earnest. The damaged infrastructure was rebuilt, and the Mormons who sided with us have begun restoring the iconic Salt Lake Temple. Most importantly, however, we've officially reinstated the city as the capital of Utah, with the Utah government working with the military to establish law enforcement and reconstitute the Utah National Guard to hunt down and finish off the last of the White Legs and the 80s in the state. Awesome. Legacy of Rocket Ready, cool. When we ride in Santa Fe, we are eager to get the old Santa Fe railroad up and running to assist in moving supplies further east, as well as restore the old state capital to assist in controlling New Mexico. We knew Lanius ransacked the old city in 2275. However, what we weren't expecting was for there to be survivors of his wrath. Through hiding, smuggling, memorizing, and guile, the remains of the Archdiocese of Santa Fe have managed to survive and were protected by a cohort of converted legionnaires to the Christian faith. The monks and bishops of Santa Fe have managed to save relics of the old world right under the Legion's nose. While hesitant, they are willing to work with us, given we didn't exactly shoot them on sight. Interesting to note is that the Archdiocese might be the last non-Mormon or insane Christians left on the continent, something more than a few members of the Enclave are pleased about. This is, of course, all an interesting side note, as we're eager to get the trains up and running for our push east and restore the new Mexican state government. Awesome. And also ironic. The trial of Augustus Bailey concluded today. The Wyoming Baron found guilty on all accounts, as well as additional charges of jury intimidation and attempted bribery and contempt of court. Mr. Bailey was reprimanded at the beginning of the trial by the judge for not taking things seriously and seemed to treat the whole thing as a joke. The turning point came when Bailey's men were brought in with chains by U.S. Marshal escort, having been caught trying to bribe officials near the jail where he was staying. Mr. Bailey tried to defend his actions as well as accuse the Attorney General of accepting a bribe. However, he could not substantiate the claim, and given the Attorney General's spotless record, the claim was considered spurious. The judge promptly sentenced him to 3 life sentences without the possibility of parole plus 235 years. He has no one to blame but himself. I mean, technically he's right, but we're not going to talk about that. Let's see. Department of Public Works. Herlong is growing, and with it, the need for someone to manage the growing town's public works systems. While it sounds communist, we can't have our people fearing that they could run out of water anytime soon. Plus, it's a military town, so it's kind of expected we handle these things. This entails making sure the roads aren't completely destroyed, coordinating with the base, and other necessary tasks that are vital but ignored. The biggest 2 things are water and electricity. Nearby Honey Lake has actually refilled with water since the bombs fell, and there is, of course, nearby Pyramid Lake. Both of them, however, need to be checked for radiation. As for power, we might be pumping all our power from Gecko, but most of it goes to the base, and we at least need a substation or something to turn the lights on in the city. I'll allow it. Herlong is reborn. Crowds gathered in Herlong to witness the restoration of the pre-war town. President Granite visited the restored town of Herlong outside of Fort Sierra and addressed the military families and civilians who came to call the area home. This right here is an example of what you can actually do with this country. You, as Americans, rebuilt this abandoned husk of a town and turned it into a little slice of Americana that hasn't been seen in 200 years. No longer are you squatting in the depot, forced to share a communal warehouse just to have a roof over your head. Each of you are your own man, your own woman, and are this much closer in control of your own future, and an American future where all of us can finally achieve the dream of restoring America to what it once was, to its rightful place in this new world. Let's make this dream a reality. Herlong is fully restored. Let's go. Awesome. That's really awesome. A thunder over the Pacific. The discovery of Chinese ghouls has brought forth talk that maybe, quite possibly, China survived as well. The mere existence of the Enclave gives precedence to that thought, and our knowledge of our secret dark past means that quite possibly they will have less than good intentions. We hope to play them off until word returned from one of our trade ships docked in Hawaii. In the harbor was docked a large sailboat, and it was flying the flag of China. Nothing happened between the two, though the captain reports of a stares between their sailors and ours, being of course our trade ship flew the flag of the reunited States. The ships were soon underway without incident, but word got out and is spreading like wildfire. Many have raised a petition and even funds for an expedition across the Pacific to see if maybe, just maybe, China survived. Several issues with such an expedition are being addressed, but the most pressing issue is most of us don't actually know Chinese. Thank God for the Shi. Now this is the event I wanted. Also, the expedition seems to be closing in. I think carriers count as capitals. Or they definitely should be. America now and forever. Awesome, that's cool. Monster of the East. And what do you mean? These are capital ships. Are they not capital ships? I don't understand the Navy. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I always say that as if it's some oddity that I've never said before. Truthfully, all I really need is these guys. Because I'm fairly certain if these aren't capital ships, I don't know what is. Whatever. The wasteland is littered with the proof America was destined to destruction with the path it was walking down. Granite, however, was in a unique position. He had the weight of the old world behind him and the lessons of the new world at his fingertips, and the foresight to keep America alive well into the future. But Granite had to be careful. Many had tried this before. Maxon, Tandy, Caesar. All had tried and each failed in their own way. Maxon's ideals were perverted, Tandy's laws were overturned, and Caesar's legion would crumble under his death. None of those fates would be the fates of America, not this time. Learning from their past and teaching them to the next generation not as the words of a leader, but experience to be remembered, America would go on. America would survive. That would be his legacy. The 2300s will be an American century. Gotta wait on ships. Cause don't got any capitals, I guess. Have I gotten through all the robot stuff? Awesome. I guess I have gotten all through the robot stuff. That's nice. I think I can sing that. The route to Hawaii was calm and without incident. Only a few sightings of ghoul whales and krakens to keep gun crews alert and responsive. Near the islands, however, radar picked up several large unidentified ships, moving at high speed, too high for the vessels of the Kingdom of Hawaii. Our captain has reported seeing several ships flying the flag of China and are closing in. They don't appear to be on an intercept course, however the image our captain sent us indicate they are not civilian vessels. Keep me posted. Do I feel like You know what? 3-hour episode. I want to get this ended off. I really do. Caesar and his legion. Flashpoint. Caesar and his legion. Lessons of the followers. Let's move to that as well. To say the legion was flawed is an understatement. However, no one can deny Edward made a gold out of lead, carrying the disparate tribes of Arizona into a military superpower that gave the NCR a run for its money, and even took on our troops in power armor. Yet the Legion followed Caesar and not his ideals. Many knew that when Mr. Sallow was removed from the picture, the Legion would collapse into infighting. We should know it was a contingency plan with the bastard. Taking those mistakes in stride, the success of the Legion could be applied to the United States, thoroughly scrubbed and given a star-spangled coat of paint, of course. We're not turning women into birth factories. Okay, yeah, no, definitely not. People should have followed America's ideals, not the president's. Flashpoint. Our captain has reported she's circled the waters for several days, as has the Chinese fleet. Robco Translate is acting a bit buggy, but for the most part can translate what we need. The language barrier hasn't eased tensions any, with many within our expedition getting anxious of a sneak attack. Observers report crewmen running around on their decks, possibly preparing weapons. Our captain is requesting what exactly we want to convey to the Chinese fleet. Broadcast peaceful intentions. Now! Peace. Peace can change. Let's see. As the Shi continued to converse with Chinese ships, they agreed to come alongside. For the first time in 200 years, the descendants of the Shi Huangti look upon their fellows, who are as equally perplexed to see Chinese members alongside the American crew. After several emotional moments from the Shi, the commander of the Chinese ships approached our captain. With the Shi translating, we were able to transcribe it onto holotape. Greetings from the Democratic People's Empire of China. We are pleased to see that you have also survived the great mistake. After a few awkward gestures of bows and handshakes, as well as discovering both them and ourselves were about to open fire, the delegations talked long through the night. They spoke of China's own vault program, the remnants of the Red Army, and even Mongolian raiders, but were far more interested in the Shi, whom they couldn't believe survived the great mistake. By daybreak, spirits remained high when a messenger from the imperial house offered a treaty of peace and commerce on behalf of the People's Democratic Empire, and for a desire of the emperor to meet the president. Apparently, there is quite the market for Nuka-Cola in China nowadays. Wait till you try a sunset sarsaparilla. A meeting of giants. And, of course, our navy is moving slowly but surely up the coast. Yeah, again, if these guys aren't capital ships, I don't know what is. I don't want to go to Alaska. Meeting of giants. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to do more motorized stuff. Okay, cool. The Navy expended nothing escorting the President to Hawaii, where the meeting was agreed to take place. With the largest and most decorated ships of the fleet, the President rode in ease and comfort aboard, further guarded by Secret Service, Marines, and Army Rangers. Upon arrival on Marine One, Granite Vertibird was met with fanfare by King Kamehameha the 21st, who likewise was honored to meet the President of the United States. Within hours of arriving, the Chinese fleet was sighted, while most of the ships were not as impressive as their American counterparts, save for one. This centerpiece ship, a massive aircraft carrier, King Kamehameha 21st noted to the President that was the Emperor's personal ship, indicating the Emperor had been to Hawaii before. As it docked in Pearl Harbor, Americans lined up to meet the Chinese, who disembarked, drums beating, as a procession led up to a single floating platform that held what could only be assumed was the Chinese Emperor. As the floating chair came down, it halted before the President and Hawaiian King. Stepping off, Granite was amazed to see a ghoul standing several inches shorter. In heavy accent English, the ghoul spoke. "Greetings! I am Emperor Huangdi of the Democratic People's Empire of China. On behalf of the United States of America, it's an honor. Gets a fate of the dragons." I'm just going to ignore this. I'm going to let the clock run a little bit more so I can move the ships faster. Okay, you can read that. You can read that. And you can read that. I don't care. Aside customary greetings and various photo ops for both the American and Chinese press, the two sat down for a luau hosted by King Kamehameha the 21st. Granite and Huangdi, I think. Excuse me if I'm mispronouncing that. I'm doing my best here. Spent much of their time speaking to the history of their two countries. While Granite was sure to avoid some of the darker secrets, Huangdi seemed enthralled by the story of how America reunited under Stars and Stripes and seemed intrigued about the concept of super mutants. Conversely, the People's Republic never recovered. Their own vault programs were meant to provide for the war effort rather than allow for survival of the nuclear holocaust. However, the CCP Master Vault was destroyed by marauding U.S. military remnants. Thus the vaults were left to themselves, and for 150 years were separate kingdoms under their own rule. It wasn't until 2243 that an effort led by the greatest vaults attempted to reunite China to restore it to its former glory. Marrying new and old, the Democratic People's Empire of China was born from the ashes of the old world as something more. Suffice to say, when his trade ships reported seeing vessels flying the stars and stripes, he is quite worried about opening old wounds that could see the world destroyed again. Upon receiving peaceful overtures, however, he is glad that America has come into the new world a better country, and not a land of genocidal maniacs stuck in the past, locked into their views of the old world. America has learned from the war. So help me, if anyone mentions the Enclave, it gets event the end of the war. That red text is making me a little nervous. Again, what is taking these ships so long? I'm just gonna let them go. The end of the war. As stories and meals came to an end, the main event comes upon everyone. While the Great War was an epoch event that set the deaths of billions, the destruction of cultures, and the unmitigated eradication of nearly every species, the end seemed so trivial. Simple paper with simple text stating that the United States and China cease hostilities, wishing to begin a new era of peace. The events were too far in the past to assign blame, and at this point, what does it even matter? As the Emperor prepares his own pen, Granite looks down at the paper and reflects on the events that had happened and the events to come. The Great War, the great mistake, is over. Of course, it still needs to be ratified by Congress, I guess. God bless America and no one else. President Granite shoots the Chinese Emperor. Gets a vent or not. Did you really? Nah, the end. It's the end. The Great War is finally over. I'm just gonna research more things in the background. With a stroke of a pen, the Chinese Emperor and the American President ended a century of conflict, and the 200 years of destruction it wrought. Cheers went up among the Americans, Chinese, and Hawaiian members of the crowd, though to some the moment seemed bittersweet. While hostilities are over, it seems almost pointless in the modern day. From the Mongol raider-plagued wastes of the Gobi, or the super mutant cannibal forests of Oregon, the idea of peace seems superfluous. The Great War lasted just 2 hours, obliterated the Earth, and neither China or the U.S. has been at war with each other since. Yet, even as the President and Emperor shake hands for the camera, one can't help but feel hope. Hope for a return to civilization, a return to stability, and that the two greatest superpowers of the old world could, just maybe, make something anew. We won't know unless we try. At peace in our time, which grants stability of 5%, gets event Main Street, USA in China, and gets event the result of the Great War. So, as the festivities continues, the question again came up about the American forces in China. After some talks, it became clear that most of the armed forces devolved into raiders that died off over the years or perished in a desperate attempt to return home. All others integrated with the Chinese or their Chinese counterparts over the centuries. However, the center of all American activity in China, Shanghai, maintained a sizable American presence and culture not too unlike San Francisco. Over the years, the descendants built mirror image of the United States, representing its pre-war ideals, all the while melding with the Chinese culture. Already, many Americans are eager to visit the city, and many from the Chinese delegation are just as eager to see San Francisco. Interesting. Very interesting. How long is it going to take you to arrive? Sins of our past. The good old days. Yeah, I don't know if we should really describe them as good old days. Ask any Enclave old-timer and they'll speak of the good old days of America, where everything was perfect and nothing was wrong. Ask any old ghoul and they'll tell you a story of a brutal military dictatorship and unhinged corporate greed. Oppression, automation, food riots, human rights abuses. We can pretend all day that America was this house on a hill, but once you look inside, you may never want to look back. America was as much a fault as the communists for its own downfall, and the jingoistic leaders on the rig were too blind to see that. 170 years of smelling their own farts made them think even the worst refuse smelled like a rose. If any lesson of the Great War is to be taught, and it's the one of America. Sure, it's back, but for how long? How long until another China? How long until a new weapon leads to another Great War? How will America learn the mistakes of its past when most of those who saw it unfold are now dead? We should not put profit above morals. Add never forget. I want these ships. I will watch this tile by tile until it arrives. Maxon's ideals. The Brotherhood of Steel, the erect sectionists from the United States Army, driven by contempt for our actions with the war effort, they nonetheless tried to uphold the traditions of the Army by protecting people. Well, that's what Maxon tried anyway. The ideals of the Brotherhood was soon bastardized to hoarding technology, a disregard for human life, and seeing anyone outside of their hallowed halls with nothing more than contempt, made worse by a hamstrung elder council who would push their problems out the door and pretend they never existed, leading to the rise of the Washington Brotherhood and Elijah. Yet they remained true to their cause and survived more than one attempt at destruction by their foes, even rebuilding entire nations from the Midwest to the East to Texas. Life as technology is important. The result of the Great War. Ever since the treaty with China, scholars and historians document the events leading to this day, as well as learning whatever we could about the Democratic People's Empire of China, and that they are not the People's Republic of China. While they trace their lineage, culture, infrastructure, and even elements of government from the People's Republic, they are different. Most obvious is the fact they have an emperor, along with some of the feudal style of leadership that runs out of their versions of vaults, which apparently are 3 times as big as even our largest vault. With all that being said, we come to a single conclusion. Go on. We technically won. Being the People's Republic of China was destroyed in the Great War, and the Chinese Communist Party was destroyed by marauding U.S. forces, they didn't survive. Therein, the United States government, in the form of the Enclave on the oil rigs, survived the Great War and returned to reforge the United States on the mainland. Thus, being the PRC ceased to exist and that the United States continued unbroken through the Enclave, we won the Great War, also known as World War III. Okay, well, hooray! We won, but at what cost? Back to back World War champs. Add USA, 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 which grants weekly war support of 2% and justify war goal time negative 2%. Hold on. No. I gotta screenshot this. Aw, no, hold on. That was a terrible one. Hold on. I gotta send that to a buddy of mine. Oh, that's fucking hilarious. I love that. That's fun. Oh, yeah, I gotta send that. I got to send that to my friend, to a buddy of mine. That's fucking hilarious. Wow! We did it, baby! Let's go! Back to back World War champions! Let's go! I remember in another version, because this is the only time I've decided to get rid of the bombs, to get rid of the nukes, to disarm them, that you could technically launch nukes at China for the God Bless America and no one else thing. I remember that much. So it's really interesting that, well, I mean, technically you can just shoot the guy, the Emperor, but I mean, still. Tandy's teaching. The NCR was one of the largest successor states on the West Coast, carrying on the traditions of the Old World, despite being a rebel government occupying American lands. What started out as an honest attempt at creating civilization developed rapidly. Politicians, wealthy barons, and a loose-cannon military-industrial complex. In short, the exact thing we had just prior to the Great War, and they did it in half the time. Those who had power quickly centralized it in the hands of the few for profit, and those who could wielded their power with reckless abandon. Even when we took California, we felt the sting of the Brahmin barons, and were forced to deal with them accordingly. The NCR shows exactly why trying to repeat the old rules would just lead to the very same mistakes. Enshrine Tandy's reforms in the Constitution. Straight up. In the Constitution, right now. I think I have enough capital ships now. I do not. Let's hope those are capital ships. Hold on. Pause the game real quick. Production, ships, green ships, capital ships. Enclave carriers. How are you outdated? What's the difference between you and you? Okay. And hold on. I can check by checking you, I think it is. You don't seem any different. I'm a little confused here. Birch, please. Thank you. Okay, we're just gonna have to hope when these guys arrive that they are far enough equal. That's nice. Just a little bit longer. Come on. Cool. Awesome. North to Alaska! Yes! The peoples of the Northwest languished under the Washington Brotherhood, the Pirates of the Maw, and the Troll War. And now we can bring freedom and prosperity to Seattle, Portland, and Walloway? Is this a real place? Yes. I think it is. We've gained control of the silos at Warren Airfield Base. Lo and behold, they are empty. Warren was one of the few bases that never received the automated production silos, as it was scheduled for early 2078. Thus, with all its missiles spent, the base remained dormant for 200 years. NDOC is set to demolish the silos as well as eradicate their plans in following with nuclear disarmament. However, the lower tunnels are infested with feral ghouls and they are proving difficult to clear out. Once they are done, though, charges will be set and the base will be turned over to the Air Force in full for our continued push east. We destroy the world with these. Awesome! Yes, 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 yes. We're going to Alaska! You can read that. It's not up to me. I don't care enough. Come on. I've never seen this before. I've never been able to do this. The Great Alaskan Expedition. More Gex. Is there anything left now? Hold on. I'm gonna put that off from reading this and just scroll through things. DEFCON, no. Execute orders. This right here is the last thing I'm gonna do. Alright, the Great Alaskan Expedition. Sifting through old Washington Brotherhood logs, Enclave intelligence has come forth and found that the Immortal was preparing an expedition to head to Alaska to uncover several battalions of soldiers that had been cryogenically stored just prior to the Great War in case the Chinese ever invaded again. Colonel Callahan was not shy in his sarcastic praise of pre-war leaders, thinking it would be a great idea to squirrel away soldiers after China was destroyed in the event they invaded again, and then kept it so secret not even the Enclave was aware of this. Aside from getting our men back, there is a growing course to send an expedition to Alaska to reclaim the state and its vast riches and manpower for the nation. Ignoring the fact that even pre-war much of the state was inhospitable at the best of times, most of the cities, towns, and villages relied on the lower 48 for basic goods or went off hunting as if it was still with weather reports showing that much of Alaska, if it was still the pre-industrial area, sorry. Then there is the matter of the climate up there, with weather reports showing that much of Alaska has become an inhospitable white hell where if anyone survived, they've had to have gone insane or are of little use to the nation as a whole. But the prospect of saving servicemen imprisoned for the crime of serving their country is what they need to get this expedition started. Outside the vault, is there anything up there? Well, it's Alaska. Something must have survived, right? It better have. Because otherwise, I've made this video like 3 times longer than I've had to. For nothing! And I will strangle so many. I will want to die. Legacy of the DIA. Cool. Red Mountain. Awesome. Where is the Alaska? Pre-war, the Defense Intelligence Agency became the premier in U.S. security operations, from predicting the moves of the Chinese to establishing safe houses for our operatives for after the war. The DIA even accurately predicted the Great War, allowing the progenitors of the Enclave to retreat to safety to continue the American dream. Now, however, its legacy is in shambles, picked apart by vultures who do not know what they're standing on. One such example is here in Nevada, and Colonel Callahan is staking his entire life that what rests underneath Red Mountain is more than worth it for the president and America, so long as it prevents another rig. Awesome. Cool. Again, where's Alaska? I want to know. I need something. I did not waste my time doing all of this for nothing. Please, I am begging you. Please, game. Yes! Yes! Yeah, baby! Alright, fleet reports from Juena? I don't know. Ever since the fleet set sail, it's been receiving orders to investigate the Panhandle, as well as the state's former capital at Juanaway. Sailing up the frozen isle, several vertebrates flew over the old state capital, and it's not looking good. The harsh climate that has dominated Alaska following the Great War has left the city frozen in time. There are a few nuclear craters identified, and judging by the wrecks in the water around the area, it is possible a few landed in the ocean. However, the city streets are deserted, not even a single sign of raiders or other rogue elements you'd expect to find in an abandoned post-war city. A few power armored units set down near the old Capitol building, and even the robots that patrol the area have been frozen solid, their circuits long destroyed by the harsh weather. It was here that there were signs of life, but it was feral ghouls that crawled out of a car park. We say ghouls as that is the closest approximation our soldiers could get. The report says they were black-skinned, had red eyes, and were missing limbs and body parts, likely from frostbite. The team retreated back to the fleet before alerting any more of the creatures. Looks like no one survived. Well, it's just one settlement. It's the third largest city in the state. I like this. This is good. I have one more thing outside of this. This has gone over 3 hours. Oh, cool. I've decrypted a cipher of some sorts. The broken coast that doesn't exist. But it lies beneath. Okay, cool. That's nice. The Rangers had no idea what they were sitting on. What Rangers? The massive fortified bunker and the wonders that were within. In their ignorance and with help from the sands of times, the facility has fallen into disrepair. However, the readings of power from the lower levels mean something is still operating down there, and Colonel Callahan is more sure than ever what lies below is exactly what he's been looking for. The United States completes excavation can begin. Some fleet reaches anchorage. At least I can pronounce that, I guess. At least somewhat pronounce it anyway. The expedition has reached anchorage and is reporting temperatures in the high negatives. Yes, you are reading that correctly. High negatives. The ambient temperature is around -50 degrees, and sailors are having to fight to keep the ice from sinking their ships due to the turbulent waters around the city. We anticipated this, however, and winterized most of the vertebrates brought along, but they have to be constantly running in order to not shut down. A large contingent from the fleet has landed at Joint Base Elmendorf Richardson, JBR, and is expected to begin preliminary searches in Anchorage tomorrow. Overflights of the city, however, aren't painting a pretty picture. Much like Juene, the city is frozen in time aside from the destruction brought upon by the Great War. Seems the PRC had hopes of reclaiming the state, as they are reporting fewer craters than seen at Juene. The remains of the large military contingent that was stationed here remain as military convoys, and pre-USA decorations line the city. However, the city's streets remain quiet and still. Not even fires are reported. As if a chilling example of what has become the city, the 914mm guns of Anchorage have been destroyed by the elements, falling down the cliffs and shattered like glass. Suffice it to say that a lot of the expedition feels uneasy about all this. This is Alaska's largest city, but calm down, Candace. Sheesh. If you had a childhood, you know who I'm referencing. If you didn't, I'm sorry. The weather grows worse. How could it possibly get worse? It's -50 degrees. Okay, it's fine. The expedition has sent in a few well-armed patrols into the city and encountered more of the frostbitten black ghouls that haunt the remains of Anchorage. No casualties were reported, but this is mostly thanks to air support and heavy ordnance. Signals intelligence aboard the ships are monitoring the airways for radio traffic about the presence of the fleet, but are returning nothing but dead air. Not even pre-war recordings over the radio are being heard. The entire atmosphere of the city seems dead and frozen, if not hostile. As if Mother Nature herself knows this is where it all began and doesn't want us there. At least that was what the report said, since the expedition commander is reporting that the weather is growing worse. Temperatures at night are dropping to around -100 degrees, and even his ships are starting to suffer from the effects of the cold. He plans to finally enter the vault, as well as send a short-range recon flight north over the mountains around Anchorage before beginning the return trip home. The last entry in his report is that there's nothing up here, and anyone trying to establish an outpost or anything in this region is an idiot or a fool with a death wish. Even if there were resources, the cost just to keep those to extract them alive would be far greater than anything we could get out of the state. We should have just grabbed the men and left. If it's not about the destination but the journey, I'm going to slug you. It's like there's two different people talking, and that's I could build up more infrastructure, I guess. Not that it really matters. Hold on. Let me just make sure all this stuff is cored before we leave. I would really enjoy that. To have an entirely cored United States. I forgot about all of this, which irritates me just slightly. I don't think it'll take longer than anything else. The men and women who missed the end of the world stumbled out of their suspended animation pods, looking at the oddly short men and women who handed them blankets and a soup that tasted almost like chicken. Don't worry, said one of the nurses. It's been a while, but on behalf of the Enclave, let me assure you that the Star-Spangled Banner yet waves over the land of the free and the home of the brave. You honestly didn't miss much. Load order of battle file ERB Alaska.
Enclave here. This is Enclave
I think
main
the code
com.
for that is a little off. Should be all about the same, I think. But I want to disband them. May they rest in peace. I think that's it. I don't think there's any more Alaskan things. I'm gonna wait a little bit longer. A few more seconds. But I'm fairly certain that's it. Oh. That's cool. Just some really powerful technology that is good for hacking, I guess. and stuff, or as far as I'm aware anymore. Alright, I think I'm gonna let myself cheat a little bit. Maybe. Oh, okay, there is more stuff. Never mind, I'm happy I waited now. The expedition commander has compiled his final report, and with it the results of the final recon flight north of Anchorage. For the bulk of the flight, it was as everywhere else in the state, cold, lifeless, dead. Many of the roadside inns were long abandoned, and the highways were littered with military convoys and vehicles trying to escape the city. There were the remains of the Chinese army, their destroyed equipment still lying where it was destroyed, as well as a few long-dead U.S. Army posts. Just before the vertibird was forced to turn back because of the winter, however, they caught signs of life for the first time in the expedition. A group of hunters, it seemed, dressed in furs and armed with spears and other crude weapons our pilots couldn't get a good look at. It seems that humans are indeed still surviving up in the cold Alaskan wilderness, despite what Alaska is throwing at them. However, they appear, at least from a distance of vertibird anyway, to have regressed to a hunter-gatherer state, which one would expect in the colds of Alaska where growing crops is impossible, and the only way to survive is to hunt enough to survive the winter. They watched the vertibird for some time. One even seemed to wave at them, but by that point, however, the weather was growing so bad that vertibird had to turn back. Perhaps when the climate stabilizes, we can venture north again. For now, however, it's best to just leave Alaska as it is and focus on the lower 48 instead of wasting more time up there. Well, who would have thought? Just leave me alone. Whoa, that's cool. Death before dismount. That's giving me cavalry vibes right there. Enclave Sigma. I don't really care either way. This is about where I'm ending this because I'm losing my mind at this point. I think that's Alaska done. Alright, I'm going to trigger the event and then... cool.
And so, the North American wasteland watched as the old world merged with the new. The wasteland remained forever changed as the specter of the United States rose from the ashes of the Great War and laid claim to the continent once again. Granite, the son of an Enclave veteran and the hero of Arroyo, had taken the Enclave, and with it, its dream to restore America. But what became of it? Did Granite live up to the ideals of the Founding Fathers 500 years ago? Or did he forge a brave new America in the face of this dangerous world the United States found itself in?
Was it worth it?
The ghouls were often treated as outsiders within New California and the rest of America. Some were treasured for their pre-war skills or pitied for their deformities. Others were feared due to the possibility of going feral. With the coming of the Enclave, ghouls were integrated into civil society once and for all. Ghouls helped America grapple with its history, for better or worse.
So it goes.
With America saved, Dornan resigned with honors and retired to the Strip, developing cocktails which used Nuka-Cola as a mixer. Dornan's bar, the Oil Rig, would become one of the hottest bars of New Vegas, although there were several HR complaints about his reaction if staff were caught out of uniform.
Patrolling the Mojave almost makes you wish for an atomic agave.
Granite continued on as president for many years before finally stepping down, restarting the tradition of presidential term limits instead of serving for life that had become the way of life in the Enclave. Many asked for him not to, but the president remained adamant. In part was his old age, while the rest was a decline in mental faculties due to years of service to his nation. For a full life of service to the American people, Granite was given the title American of the Century, before finally retiring to a modest abode north of Arroyo, overlooking the Pacific Ocean.
It's the American dream.
And what of the Enclave? The pre-war specter that was the U.S. government that hoped to bring back the United States to the American shores. President Granite buried any and all evidence of the Enclave's previous actions, with the dark truth of the pre-war government and the Enclave buried at the bottom of the sea under the radioactive metal hulk that was the oil rig. President Richardson, the man who nearly delivered the world a second Holocaust, was elevated alongside great names like Roosevelt and Lincoln for keeping America alive and well. For a time, this saved face for the United States, who maintained their legitimacy in the eyes of the public. However, as time drew on, the old ways creeped back in, as the government began taking necessary approaches to problems that bordered on unethical. A missing reporter, a silenced critic, a military experiment on an unsuspecting small frontier town. America shined bright, but only because the light was before a dark growing cloud.
Were we really the bad guys? Special thanks to BrownDog921 on Reddit for the inspiration behind this idea. Gets offend the fate of Arcade Ganon.
Ganon's mother fled from Navarro after the fall of the oil rig, but Ganon returned to the Enclave when Granite was elected. He was one of many who put their hopes in the dream of a better world, and ended up fleeing the new America and its secret police. Ganon would reach his end in the capital wasteland, aghast that the Enclave's tentacles had reached even there.
So it goes.
After the end of the Great War, freedom of speech vanished from most of America. Would-be despots crushed dissenters in the name of security, progress, or just because they could. Under the Enclave, the First Amendment was restored, and voices silent since the Great War spoke out. Fueled by the dream of freedom and the economic boom that followed reuniting the wastes, a new type of music arose, which the kids call New World Blues. It's about letting go of your first love, because you've met your next. It's about letting go of the past, because you've got to enjoy the present. And it's so poppy that everyone's parents hated it.
EDE Play Party in the USA.
House once said, "If you want to see the fate of democracies, look out the windows." But House didn't address the fact that pre-war America was not a democracy. Granite's dream was to restore America at its best, and that meant the land of freedom. Deciding not to seek a fourth term after the war with Chicago, Granite stayed silent during debates over the Brotherhood War, the Hawaiian Conference, and the campaign against the South American raiders. Those debates, bringing forth millions of voters across the reunited states, were simply democracy in action.
So it goes.
The Enclave once believed that wastelanders were mutants fit only for extermination, and even many reformers within the Enclave viewed the wastelanders as, if human, second-class citizens. More than one centrist saw the wastelanders as humans, but inferior stock, who needed to be salvaged through genetic testing and other programs to save the American people. Under Granite, America tried to live up to its founding ideals, that all men are created equal. Wastelanders, vault dwellers, and Enclave purists all lived together, continuing the American experiment.
So it goes.
The Great War saw an end to the America of old, snuffed out in the blinding flash of nuclear bombs. Worse still, those who sought shelter in the vaults for safety were subjected to horrifying experiments at the hands of those who claimed to protect them. 200 years later, however, the government had returned to the mainland, and under the Enclave, America was reborn, the stars and stripes flying high over the land. And while still a far cry from the America of old, it gave people hope. Where raiders, knights, and barons once tread saw communities, families, and the first progress in centuries. America had come out of the Great War a little battered, but better than it ever had been. As the 2300s closed in, the future had never been brighter.
God bless America. And God bless all of you. Thank you all for joining me. It has been a long and rocky road, but here we are. The end. I couldn't have done this all without your support and your enjoyment of this series. So, thank you. Hopefully, someday, all this will be, well, discovered. All of this will have more content to it. I'm hoping it will. It says future content, so we can get hyped about that. But for now, this is as much as we can get. We've brought back Canada. We've brought back Mexico. We even got Honduras down here, our good friends. We've brought back the United States. A little battered, but still better than we've ever been. I thank you all for joining me. It's been a long, long time to get here, and it was worth it in the end. I thank you all, and this is DragonMan out for the last time. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.